Hi there, fellow enjoyers of a galaxy far, far away. Today, we're diving into the exciting world of Star Wars Rebels. Rebels is set in the Star Wars universe between the events of Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, and Episode 4, A New Hope, giving us a closer look at the formation of the Rebel Alliance in the early struggles against the Galactic Empire. The series follows a group of colorful rebels aboard the starship Ghost as they go on insane missions and face the most sinister villains imaginable, including the menacing Inquisitors and the Sith Lord himself, Darth Vader. Our heroes include the young Jedi in training, Ezra Bridger, the seasoned Jedi Knight, Kanan, the incredible pilot, Hera Syndulla, the Mandalorian hotshot, Sabine Wren, this big purple fella, Zeb, and their droid named Chopper. So sit back and join us as we recap the adventures and the epic moments that made Star Wars Rebels an unforgettable part of the Star Wars saga. Let's get started. Episode 1 opens with Darth Vader ordering the Grand Inquisitor to eliminate any children of the Force and any Jedi training them. The Inquisitor swears that it'll get done. We're off to a lovely start, aren't we? On Lothal, 14-year-old Ezra lives in an abandoned communication tower. He spots a Star Destroyer heading toward Capital City and races off on a speeder bike. In the city, he tricks Officer Oresco and Grint away from harassing a merchant and helps himself to some fruit. Ezra climbs onto a roof and sees Kanan, a former Jedi, and his rebel crew trying to steal Imperial supplies. Ezra joins the chaos, stealing a speeder and 2 crates. Sabine spots Ezra and takes 1 crate. The chase continues until Ezra's speeder is destroyed by a TIE fighter, but the rebels save him. Kanan offers Ezra a chance to escape, and Ezra accidentally uses the Force to jump into the Ghost with his crate. What? On board the Ghost, Ezra discovers the crates contain blasters. Hera, the pilot, is impressed by Ezra, thinking that he could be useful. Ezra argues with Zeb about the blasters, and gets thrown into a small room, but escapes through an air vent. Realizing he's in space for the first time, he completely freaks out. Kanan and Sabine fight off the TIE fighters, and Hera jumps into hyperspace, making it out safe.
My name's Ezra. What's yours?
My name's Zeb.
Back on Lothal, Agent Kallus inspects the scene of the rebel heist, and tells Oresco that the rebels' activities could signal the start of a rebellion. The Ghost lands near Tarkin Town, a refugee camp named for Grand Moff Tarkin. Hera and Kanan sell the blasters to arms dealers Vizago, who offers info on the Wookiees.
Keep going.
The rebels distribute food from the crates to the locals, and Ezra sees the suffering caused by the Empire. He returns to the Ghost, breaks into Kanan's room, and finds a holocron and a lightsaber. Kanan demands the lightsaber back, but lets Ezra keep the holocron, saying if he can open it, he can be a Jedi. Sabine explains to Ezra that the crew is like a family. Just then, Zeb calls her inside to discuss a plan to rescue Wookiee prisoners from an Imperial transport. Ezra, having snuck through the ventilation shaft again, overhears the plan. When they find out, Zeb wants to dump him back on Lothal, but Sabine thinks it's too dangerous since he knows too much. Hera takes Ezra to the cockpit, where he learns more about the rebels and their fight against the Empire. The Ghost drops out of hyperspace near the Imperial transport. Hera, pretending to be an Imperial officer, tricks the transport into letting them dock. Kanan, Sabine, and Zeb board the transport, with Zeb pretending to be a rare, hairless Wookiee. When the Imperials don't really buy it, Zeb just knocks them out. Suddenly, Kallus's Star Destroyer arrives, springing a trap. Hera sends Ezra to warn the others. Ezra initially refuses, but changes his mind after Hera's hard-hitting line. He sneaks aboard the transport, finds Kanan and Zeb, and they fight off some stormtroopers. Ezra is captured by Kallus as the rebels escape by detonating explosives. Kanan and Hera discuss how the mission was a setup and praise Ezra until they realize Zeb couldn't save him. On the Star Destroyer, Kallus interrogates Ezra, who cheekily says he's Jabba the Hutt. Kallus tells Ezra the Empire will use him as bait, but Ezra insists the rebels won't come for him. Ezra tricks the stormtroopers and escapes, hearing that the Wookiees are being taken to the spice mines of Kessel. He learns the Ghost has returned to rescue him. Ezra meets the rebels near the docking bay, and they escape, with Sabine setting off an explosion that nearly sucks Kallus into space. The Ghost returns to Lothal, and Ezra tells the rebels about the Wookiees on Kessel. They decide to go on a rescue mission, but Kallus expects their plan, having overheard them through the stolen helmet. On Kessel, the rebels attack the Imperial transport, and they free the Wookiees. TIE fighters show up, and the Ghost leads them away while Kallus's transport arrives. Kanan uses his lightsaber to protect the crew and the Wookiees. Ezra, deciding to help, rescues a young Wookiee, Kitwar. Kallus sees Ezra's actions and thinks he's Kanan's apprentice. The Ghost picks up the container, rescuing everyone and escaping from Kessel. The Wookiees thank the rebels and promise to help them if needed. They take Ezra back to Lothal, and Ezra hands Kanan the holocron back. And it's open. Hera says that he's passed, so Kanan has to teach him. Kanan follows him back to his place and offers him a choice: keep his lightsaber and remain on Lothal, or return to the ship and be trained as a Jedi. As Kanan listens to a message from Obi-Wan Kenobi, Ezra returns to his tower to think and eventually rejoin the crew, ready to embrace his new destiny. Meanwhile, Kallus contacts the Inquisitor, informing him about the rebel call led by a Jedi. It's about to get real, folks. Episode 4 opens with Kanan training Ezra on the Ghost. Ezra struggles with a one-handed handstand while Zeb and Chopper watch. Kanan says, "Do or do not. There is no try." Wait, where have I heard that before?
Actually, that one always confused me too, but Master Yoda sure used to say it a lot.
Ezra, confused, wonders how this has anything to do with trying, and Kanan admits he never really got it either. Fair enough. Bored, Zeb shakes the turret, causing Ezra to fall. Ezra protests, but Kanan explains he needs to focus despite distractions. Oh, come on, that's BS. Next, they move to lightsaber training. Ezra asks when he can have his own lightsaber, but Kanan says owning one doesn't make you a Jedi. Adjusting the blade, Kanan orders Chopper to throw containers at Ezra. With his eyes closed, Ezra tries to block them, but gets pelted. Zeb and Chopper bombard Ezra until he falls off the ship. Kanan uses the Force to catch him mid-fall, and he pulls him back up. On board, Kanan tells Ezra he's undisciplined and full of self-doubt. Ezra blames Kanan as his teacher. Kanan, frustrated, walks away. In the lounge, the crew watches a holonet news transmission about the missing TIE fighter. Gul Travis hijacks the broadcast, claiming Jedi Master Luminara Unduli is alive in the Stygian system. Ezra asks if Kanan knew Unduli. Kanan says she'd be an excellent teacher for Ezra, but Ezra thinks Kanan wants to pawn him off on a stranger. On their way to Stygian Prime, Sabine shows a holograph of the Spire, an impossible-to-escape prison. Naturally, the crew decide to break in. They leave Chopper in charge of the Ghost and head to the prison in the Phantom. Once in, Ezra gets a bit too eager for combat, causing a brief fight with the guards that the rebels barely win. Kanan scolds Ezra for his lack of discipline, but Sabine interrupts, instructing Ezra to pick the lock of the door. Inside, Kanan senses Unduli's presence, but it's clouded. Sabine finds out that Unduli is in an isolation cell. Kanan improvises a new plan as they take a turbo lift down. Hera, waiting in the Phantom, detects something approaching, but sees it's Tibety. Attracted by the Phantom signal, worried about drawing attention, Hera flies off, leading the creatures away. In the lower levels, Kanan and Ezra move deeper, while Sabine and Zeb guard the lift. They find Unduli's cell, and Kanan mind tricks the guards to leave. Gotta love the old mind trick. Inside, they see Unduli.
Master?
But her image fades, revealing her remains. The Grand Inquisitor appears, revealing that it's a trap. He taunts Kanan, saying he uses Unduli's bones to lure Jedi survivors, and another brief fight occurs. But this time, Kanan gets overpowered. The Inquisitor recognizes Kanan's fighting style and deduces his Jedi master. Ezra plants a detonator on the cell door and blows it open, allowing their escape. But the Inquisitor is close behind. Sabine realizes that the mission is a trap, and they need a new escape route. Meanwhile, the Inquisitor tries to tempt Ezra to the dark side, but Ezra refuses. The two have a pretty one-sided fight, with Ezra getting absolutely whooped. But thankfully, Kanan rushes in and helps him on the rest of the rebel crew escape. Hera arrives in the Phantom, bringing the Tibety, which attack the stormtroopers trailing behind. The rebels scramble aboard as the Inquisitor throws his lightsaber, but Kanan deflects it, and they escape. Aboard the Ghost, Ezra overhears Kanan telling Hera that Unduli is dead, and that he's stuck with Ezra as his student. Whoop, kinda cold. Back on Lothal, Ezra tells Kanan he doesn't have to train him anymore, saying he knows Kanan wanted to abandon him to Unduli. Kanan assures Ezra he only wanted the best teacher for him. Ezra makes it clear he wants Kanan to teach him, and Kanan agrees. Ezra takes Kanan's lightsaber, and as Kanan throws stones, Ezra successfully deflects them, continuing their training. In the Lothalian town of Yothal, Hera, Sabine, and Zeb head to Old Joe's pit stop while Kanan is busy giving Ezra a lesson on connecting with other beings in a nearby field.
You have to let your guard down. You have to be willing to attach to others.
Ezra, not exactly a Jedi whisperer, tries to befriend a Lothcat nearby, only to get a hiss and a glare. Ezra, feeling the strain of Empire Day, complains about his Jedi future. And just then, 3 TIE fighters zoom overhead. They duck into Old Joe's pit stop, pilots barge in searching for a Rhodian fugitive, but they come up empty-handed. They also force Joe to play Imperial Holo News, featuring the 15th anniversary of Empire Day. Thankfully, the broadcast is hilariously interrupted by the senator in exile, Gall Travis, urging everyone to boycott the celebrations. After some grumbling, the TIE pilots leave. Thank goodness. Joe informs Kanan about the spaceport lockdown and planetary blockade. Also, Kanan hints at their own plan to disrupt Empire Day. Ezra, brooding, wonders why the Empire is after Sibo, an old family friend. Yeah, no, actually, why is the Empire after all of Ezra's old family friends? That night, in Capital City, the Imperials stage a grand parade. Minister Makath Twa and Commandant Oresco oversee the festivities, including the debut of the TIE Advanced V1 piloted by Baron Valen Reuter. Amidst the crowd, the Spectres plan their move. Sabine and Zeb distract the crowd with fireworks, while Kanan plants explosives under the TIE Advanced.
Empire Day! I love it! All hail our glorious Empire!
Pretending to be drunk, Kanan gets away with Ezra's help, just as the TIE goes boom. Chaos ensues, and the Spectres flee. Zeb tries taking out the Grand Inquisitor, but misses, frying the wrecked TIE. I don't think he could have taken him out even if he hit him. As they escape, Kanan and Ezra head to Ezra's old home, where they find Sibo hiding in the basement. If it was that easy for him to get out, why didn't he just do that before? Anyway, Sabine notices Sibo has an AJ-6 cyborg construct, which means his brain is a goldmine of Imperial secrets. Ezra, dealing with mixed feelings, shares that Sibo went to work for the Empire after his parents were taken away. Sabine taps into Sibo's cybernetic data, revealing crucial Imperial information. They realize they must get Sibo off-world to protect the secrets that he holds. Oh, and the reason that Ezra is so upset? Empire Day falls on his birthday. It's like 10 times worse than being born on Christmas. Ezra finds one of his parents' old discs from when they used to do underground broadcasting against the Empire, and leaves it there, but Sabine grabs it. Outside, Imperials conduct door-to-door searches. Sabine ambushes some stormtroopers, while Kanan hijacks an Imperial troop transport. At a roadblock, Commandant Oresco orders his men to fire on the hijacked transport. Sabine crashes through, and they speed down the highway with Callus in hot pursuit. The Ghost arrives just in time to pick up the crew, but Callus manages to cling to the back. Thankfully, Chopper uses the ship's rear cannons to overturn Callus's transport, and the rebels escape. Once airborne, the Ghost is chased by the Grand Inquisitor's TIE fighters, and Chopper is taken out of commission. Yikes. Just as Sabine heads to the nose gun, Sibo tells Ezra he knows what happened to his parents. Oh man. Episode 8 begins with the crew being chased, and Ezra and Sabine dealing with Sibo's revelation. Ezra, hoping for a clear answer, presses Sibo, who begs for forgiveness for not protecting his parents. Ezra, angry and hurt, refuses to forgive him, and I don't really blame him. With Chopper being out for the time being, Hera calls on Ezra to fix the navigation computer. Ezra struggles, but Sibo steps in and directly signals the hyperspace coordinates, causing the Ghost to jump into hyperspace. What the crew doesn't know is that the Inquisitor planted a tracker on the Phantom. Oh boy. The Inquisitor informs Admiral Constantine of his plan to use the tracker to find the Ghost. While traveling through hyperspace, the crew debates what to do with Sibo. Ezra, bitter about Sibo's role in his parents' disappearance, is unhelpful and uncaring. Kanan warns Ezra that he won't progress as a Jedi if he can't be honest with himself. When Sibo interrupts to reveal that the Imperials are tracking them, showing the tracker schematics.
Stop grumbling and find that tracker.
Chopper scans the Ghost and finds the tracker on the Phantom. Hera suggests dumping the Phantom into hyperspace, but Kanan proposes using it as a decoy. He and Ezra will keep the Imperials busy, while the rest of the crew and Sibo rendezvous with the mysterious Fulcrum. Ezra reluctantly agrees to the plan, though he's uncomfortable with their destination, an asteroid base home to nocturnal predators called Fernnox. Kanan wants Ezra to use the Force to bond with them, but he can't, because he's afraid of knowing the truth about his parents. As soon as he accepts his fear, Ezra succeeds in bonding with the Fernnox and forgives Sibo. This peace is felt by Sibo, who also apologizes for betraying Ezra's parents. Shortly after, the Inquisitor arrives with stormtroopers, sensing Kanan and Ezra's presence. The Fernnox attack the stormtroopers, but the Inquisitors fends them off with the Force. Kanan and Ezra engage him in a lightsaber duel, but he just whoops their asses. Again. In a desperate move, Ezra taps into the dark side to summon the Mother Fernnox, which attacks the Inquisitor, allowing Kanan and Ezra to escape. The Inquisitor manages to defeat it and throws his lightsaber at them again, but Kanan just knocks it away again and manages to escape, destroying the transport for good measure. Well, that was disturbing. Meanwhile, the Ghost reaches the rendezvous point with Fulcrum, an Alderaanian blockade runner. Before boarding, Sibo tells Hera that he volunteered for the cybernetic implant to make up for his failure, to protect Ezra's parents, and confides that he knows their fate. In prep for whatever is revealed, Kanan warns Ezra about the dangers of letting his emotions lead him to the dark side. Back on the Ghost, Sabine gives Ezra the holodisc she grabbed from his old home. It's a holographic picture of him and his parents. As far as birthday presents go, that's about as good as it gets. In the aftermath of their encounter with the Grand Inquisitor at Fort Anaxis, Kanan's still worried about how Ezra used the dark side to escape. Kanan searches for Ezra on the Ghost, eventually finding out from Seb that Ezra isn't there.
Nope, no Ezra's in here.
Meanwhile, Ezra's running back after hanging out with Sabine. Kanan returns to his quarters, opens his holocron, and studies a star map of Jedi temples. Ezra arrives and apologizes for missing training, and Kanan rightfully lectures him on discipline and focus, reminding Ezra he still has a lot to learn. Kanan tells Ezra he needs to face a test to see if he's meant to be a Jedi. Ezra, thinking he was already a Jedi, is surprised, but eager to prove himself. Ready for a second chance, Ezra is ordered to prep the Phantom. Kanan confides in Hera that he might regret this decision, but Hera reassures him that he needs to help Ezra after what happened. The Phantom flies over the grasslands of Lothal. Kanan tells Ezra the Jedi Order had outposts and temples across the galaxy, many destroyed by the Empire. He asks Ezra to meditate and let the Force guide him to a temple. Ezra envisions a massive stone, a tunnel, and a bright star, realizing there's a Jedi temple on Lothal. Kanan pilots the Phantom to the temple in a cold, snowy region. Ezra recognizes the temple and realizes Kanan knew about it all along, who explains he found it on the map in his holocron and wanted to see if Ezra could find it himself. Kanan sends Ezra to find an entrance, warning him to be quick, as the area might be under Imperial surveillance. Ezra, using the Force, finds the entrance, and together they open the temple, revealing a hidden doorway. Inside, Kanan warns Ezra to stay focused, as the temple could collapse. But Ezra, distracted by the sight of two Jedi corpses, loses focus, causing the entrance to close.
You lost focus.
Well, dead guys are distracting.
Kanan explains that the corpses belong to Jedi Masters whose Padawans never return from their tests. Ezra, confident in his master, believes he will succeed. However, Kanan tells him he must face the test alone, putting his life in Ezra's hands. As Ezra enters the temple, Kanan tells him he's looking for nothing and everything, a cryptic phrase his own master once told him. Ezra wanders through the temple, seeing a vision of Kanan and the Inquisitor fighting. The vision of Kanan is defeated, and the Inquisitor stabs him, causing Ezra to vow revenge. Ezra grabs Kanan's lightsaber, but it doesn't work. Trying to evade the Inquisitor, Ezra falls into an abyss, only to land in his quarters on the Ghost. What is going on? He overhears the crew discussing his test. Hera and Chopper doubt that he's ready, while Zeb is just glad to have his quarters back. Sabine pities him, calling him a scared kid. Realizing that it's not real, Ezra sees the Inquisitor slaughter the crew, before falling through another doorway, landing back in the temple. He feels abandoned, but he remembers he survived alone before. He regains his confidence, believing Kanan might be alive and needs his help. Facing another vision of the Inquisitor, Ezra realizes that his greatest fear isn't death, but being alone. He stands up to the vision, and the Inquisitor's lightsaber presses through him, revealing it's an illusion. Ezra hears the voice of Jedi Master Yoda guiding him. Yoda commends Ezra for facing his fears and asks if he's ready for what's to come. Lights appear, guiding Ezra through the temple. Meanwhile, Yoda communicates with Kanan, reminding him to be patient and honest about his readiness to be a master. Kanan admits his doubts, but vows not to let Ezra lose his way. Following the lights, Ezra reaches a hall with inscriptions. Yoda asks why he wants to be a Jedi, and Ezra says it's because Kanan believes in him, because he wants to protect others and fight the Empire. Yoda sees Ezra's anger and fear, but also his desire to help. A bright star appears, descending into Ezra's hands as a small blue crystal appears, a kyber crystal for his lightsaber. Ezra returns to Kanan, showing him the crystal. Kanan explains its significance, and they leave the temple, which closes behind them. Ezra suggests using the temple as a rebel base, but Kanan says it belongs to the past. Back on the Ghost, Ezra spends weeks building his lightsaber with parts donated by the crew.
Chopper even donated a power cell.
When it's finished, he presents it to Kanan, who says it's different, but it suits Ezra very well. With the crew assembled, Ezra ignites his lightsaber for the first time, ready for the challenges ahead. Next episode. Ezra's training with Kanan in deflecting blaster stun shots. Ezra insists that he'll get it eventually, but Kanan notices that he's distracted, and he asks what's wrong. Ezra admits that he's worried about missing the latest transmission from Senator Gall Travis, but Kanan scolds him for being impatient and tells him to focus on the present. As Ezra continues training, he suddenly hears voices. and sees a vision of the rebels saving Travis from the Imperials and the Senator telling him that his parents were brave. Ezra shares his vision with the others, thinking Travis must have known his parents. The crew, however, is a bit shaky about the whole thing and punch him to prove that he can't actually see the future. Man, these guys are really terrible friends sometimes. Back on the Ghost, Hera gathers everyone to watch the recorded transmission from Travis. The Senator has hidden a message, indicating he'll meet local rebels on Lothal.
Those rebels, I have a message. The sun may have set on the old republic.
The rebels decode the message and figure out the meeting spot is the Lothal City Capitol building, now abandoned. Kanan suspects a trap, but Ezra is sure his vision was accurate. So he leaves to get intel from his friend Zer Leonis, who is a double agent inside the Imperial Academy, learning there's an operation to capture the Senator. Before Ezra can say more, stormtroopers interrupt, forcing him to run. They give chase, but he manages to escape. The rebels stake out the Capitol building and spot Imperial troops. Sensing a trap, they decide to sneak in through the sewers. Chopper guards the entrance while the team splits up. Ezra, Hera, and Kanan meet Travis, but they're ambushed by Imperials. They escape with Travis into the sewers, with Imperials hot on their trail. Chopper is mistaken for an old Imperial droid by a Stormtrooper patrol and left to guard the sewer entrance. Animated or live action, Stormtroopers are still thick as pigskin.
I've been pursued, but never in such a place as this.
In the sewers, the rebels split up to confuse them. Hera and Ezra help Travis, who seems disgusted after they touch him, and seems really worried about being chased. It's kinda weird. As they encounter a fan blocking their path, Hera gives Travis her blaster to watch their backs while they disable the fan. Travis turns the blaster on them, revealing himself as an Imperial agent. What? Turns out he's been luring rebels out of hiding to be captured or killed by the Empire. Ezra's devastated, insisting Travis is a voice of freedom like his parents. Travis mocks Ezra's parents for their defiance and claims they were foolish to resist. Travis aims at Hera, but the blaster's not charged. Hera knocks him out, explaining she already suspected Travis because he was acting pretty sus. The rest of the rebels arrive, followed by Imperials, so Kanan uses the Force to stop the fan, allowing them to escape. Back on the Ghost, Ezra hates himself for how wrong he was about Travis. Kanan explains that Ezra misinterpreted his vision, letting his emotions cloud it. The vision was actually a warning about Travis's trap. He reminds Ezra that understanding Force visions requires training and discipline. Hera reassures Ezra that despite Travis's betrayal, there's still hope in the galaxy. I don't know, man, it's pretty hard to be hopeful after something like that. Grand Moff Tarkin, the Imperial Governor of the Outer Rim, lands at the Imperial Complex on Lothal, greeted by the ever-nervous Minister Maketh Twa. She's shocked by his visit, probably because she didn't have time to hide the dust bunnies. Tarkin immediately reprimands her for letting a rebel cell flourish, before turning his scorn on Agent Kallus for failing to stop the rebels from causing chaos. When Twa mentions the rebel leader is a Jedi, Tarkin mocks the Grand Inquisitor's competence. He doubts there are any Jedi left, and swears he'll capture this criminal to prove it. Meanwhile, Kanan, Ezra, and Sabine have stolen a crate of supplies, and are being chased by Imperial speeder bikes. Sabine's chaser crashes into a wall, while Kanan shoots down another. They trick their remaining chasers into a rubbish dump, where Ezra takes out the last biker.
You're finally getting the hang of this. There's hope for you yet.
Victorious, they return to the Ghost. Back on the Ghost, they watch Senator Gul Travis proclaim his allegiance to the Empire on HoloNet. Kanan, unimpressed by Travis's flip-flopping, plans to hijack Lothal's Imperial Communications Center to broadcast their side of the story. Meanwhile, Tarkin interrogates Oresco and Grint, then orders the Inquisitor to execute them for their incompetence, which leaves Agent Kallus and Mr. Twa horrified. Tarkin, not one for subtlety, warns that failure will no longer be tolerated, and orders probe droids to hunt down the rebels. Meanwhile, while infiltrating the communications tower, Kanan, Sabine, and Ezra spot a probe droid. Ezra, thinking on his feet, uses the Force to summon a Lothcat to disable it. Despite their efforts, the probe transmits their location. Tarkin decides not to increase Imperial presence, wanting the rebels to think they still have the element of surprise, sending the Inquisitor after them. Well, that really sucks. Ezra worries that their plan might fail, and they'll end up like his parents. But Kanan reminds him that fear of loss shouldn't stop them from fighting for a greater cause. They press on, hoping for the best. Which is what I would do too when I face any minor inconvenience.
And when the time comes, we have to be ready to sacrifice for something bigger.
Later that night, the Ghost crew infiltrates the control tower and overpowers the stormtroopers. However, they quickly realize they've walked into a trap as Imperial forces close in. These guys sure do walk into a lot of traps. Kanan stays behind to hold off the Imperials, while Ezra, Sabine, Zeb, and Chopper head up to the tower to meet Hera in the Phantom. Kanan says he's right behind them, which usually means he's not coming. And that's proven true when the Inquisitor shows up and he destroys the lock, stopping anyone from going after them. Meanwhile, Ezra and the others are cornered by a patrol transport, but Sabine saves the day by blowing it up. Back on the ground, the Inquisitor offers Kanan a chance to surrender, hinting that someone wants to meet him. Hera arrives just in time to evacuate the rebels, but Kanan orders her to leave him behind to avoid capture. Despite Ezra's protests, Hera reluctantly complies, and they flee into the night. At dawn, Kanan is presented to Tarkin, who smugly greets the Jedi. Tarkin's victory is short-lived when he learns the rebels are broadcasting from the communications tower. Ezra delivers an inspiring speech urging the people of Lothal to rise against the Empire. In response, Tarkin orders gunships to destroy the tower. As Tarkin's gunship soars, he tells Kanan that while the Jedi may not know what it takes to win a war, he does. Back on the Ghost, Ezra wonders if their message was heard. Hera assures him that it was, and that their fight is far from over. Episode 14 opens with Ezra, Sabine, Chopper, and Zeb setting off on a mission to rescue Kanan. Their plan begins with hijacking an ATDP walker to hack into the Imperial data network to find out where Kanan is being held. But with the Empire's network down after they destroyed Lothal's Imperial Communications Center, it's not exactly smooth sailing. Chased by 2 more ATDP walkers, the rebels make a mad dash to the town's western border to rendezvous with Hera in the Phantom. Hera shows up just in time to pick up Ezra, Sabine, and Zeb as one of the walkers catches up. Realizing Chopper is still inside, Zeb goes back to retrieve him just before the walker blows up. Man, these guys really give new meaning to the phrase, close call. Back on the Ghost, Hera receives word from Fulcrum that their transmission was widely viewed by both civilians and the Empire. Concerned for their safety, Fulcrum tells Hera to abandon the search for Kanan. But Ezra, stubborn as ever, refuses to give up. While Chopper distracts Hera, Ezra, Sabine, and Zeb steal the Phantom.
What are you up to?
And head into Lothal's wilderness to find Visago, the Devaronian crime lord. Initially, Visago is reluctant to help, complaining that the rebels' antics have disrupted his business. Ezra, channeling his inner Jedi salesman, reveals that he and Kanan are both Jedi. Visago laughs it off until Ezra uses the Force to levitate a crate above his head. Impressed, Visago tells them the Empire is using courier droids to transfer sensitive info to their communication ship above Lothal. Kanan's location might be in this data, but he can't confirm it, which is typical of him. He then tells Ezra he owes him, and that he'll take that favor someday in the future. $1 million says that this is going to come back to bite Ezra in the ass. Ezra returns to find Hera furious with them for disobeying orders. Despite this, the rebels refuse to abandon Kanan, and Hera, outnumbered, agrees to help. Meanwhile, aboard Tarkin's Star Destroyer, Kanan's not budging on giving any rebel info despite the torture that he's being put through. Tarkin orders Kanan to be transferred to the Mustafar system, ominously saying it will produce the desired results. Using Visago's intel, the rebels plan to intercept an Imperial courier droid and replace it with Chopper. Disguised as an Imperial droid, Chopper boards the shuttle heading to the communication ship. Once there, Chopper hacks into the network, though he starts attracting unwanted attention. But he plays it off by pretending to malfunction and gets the rebels the information that they need. After downloading the data, Chopper signals the Ghost crew to attack the ship, giving him a chance to escape. Chopper jets back to the Ghost, flying through the bomb bay doors in a move that would make any droid jealous. From the data Chopper retrieved, the crew discovers Kanan is being sent to Mustafar. Hera shares Kanan's grim words about Mustafar. It's where Jedi go to die. On Lothal, Sabine, Zeb, and Ezra are up to their usual shenanigans, sabotaging an Imperial complex, blowing up TIE fighters, and stealing an Imperial transport. Back on the Ghost, the crew huddles to figure out how to rescue Kanan from Grand Moff Tarkin's Star Destroyer, where he's being tortured by the Grand Inquisitor. The plan? Fill a stolen TIE fighter, the same one Zeb and Ezra said they destroyed, with EMP grenades to knock out the ship's power, and then dock their stolen transport.
There's a slight problem with it.
What kind of problem?
Yeah.
Oh, and Sabine gave it a mean paint job too. Sounds great, what could possibly go wrong? Meanwhile, the Grand Inquisitor is busy being a jerk, torturing and taunting Kanan with memories of his master, Depa Billaba, and her death during Order 66. Meanwhile, the rebels manage to infiltrate Tarkin's Star Destroyer, but their sabotage triggers a swift response from Tarkin, who sends stormtroopers from nearby Star Destroyers to board the Sovereign. Ezra, separated from the crew, decides it's time for a solo rescue mission. While the rest of the crew scrambles to get off the Sovereign, Chopper makes a desperate call to Fulcrum for help. Ezra finds Kanan, but the reunion is cut short by the Grand Inquisitor in the reactor core room. Kanan and the Inquisitor engage in yet another epic lightsaber duel. Ezra jumps in, wielding Kanan's lightsaber, which the Inquisitor had been flaunting like a new toy. The Inquisitor manages to knock Ezra off the platform with his lightsaber, leaving him unconscious. Kanan, thinking Ezra is dead, taps into his interaction hero, and finally beats the Inquisitor, destroying his lightsaber and forcing him to hang on the edge of the platform. The Inquisitor, in a melodramatic exit, warns Kanan about things far worse than death, before letting go and falling into the reactor core, causing a massive explosion. Ezra, who's just been taking a quick nap, wakes up and reunites with Kanan. Meanwhile, Hera, Zeb, and Sabine find their way back to their infiltrated TIE fighter, only to realize Chopper and their transport are MIA. Kanan and Ezra snag the Inquisitor's TIE Advanced and rejoin the crew, now stranded in space, while elsewhere, Tarkin makes his own escape. They're being chased by a bunch of TIE fighters, and just when things look grim for our heroes, Chopper arrives in style with their transport, the Ghost, and 3 Corellian corvettes. They dock the TIEs and escape, which leads to a super touching reunion. Bail Organa appears on a hologram, revealing that the Rebel cell is part of a larger network. Fulcrum descends from the Ghost turret and introduces herself as Ahsoka Tano. What? Turns out there are other Rebel cells out there, and Hera knew about them. But they were operating individually, so if one of them got captured, they couldn't rat on their allies. But since Ezra's message, the galaxy has hope again. And so, the Rebels are changing strategies. Meanwhile, back on Lothal, Tarkin meets with Agent Kallus, who warns of an imminent insurrection. Tarkin coolly assures them that the Empire has sent a new enforcer, Darth Vader. Season 2 is going to be crazy. The crew of the Ghost joined Phoenix Squadron.
Good shot, Phoenix 1. Save some for the rest of us.
A Rebel cell with a fleet of corvettes and A-Wings under Commander Jun Sato. Their latest mission? Steal shield generators from the Empire to protect the fleet. They knock supplies loose from one ship, secure the cargo, and jump to hyperspace just before the 2 Arquettons-class light cruisers show up to crash the party. Back on Lothal, Minister Makath Twa and Agent Kallus discuss their efforts to find the rebels. Kallus reminds her that Tarkin wants results, especially after his personal Star Destroyer got a rebel makeover. Enter Darth Vader, who tells Twa they need to lure the rebels back. When Twa expresses her fear, Vader says she should take it up with Tarkin, who we all know has a less than friendly track record with underperforming soldiers. Man, Darth Vader is just so cool. Back on the command ship, Phoenix home, Commander Sato praises the Ghost crew for securing fuel for the fleet. But there's bad news. There's no shield generators. Just then, Chopper interrupts with an urgent message. The message is from Jo, who presents a terrified Minister Twa. She wants to defect and offers valuable Imperial intel in return. Everyone thinks it's a bad idea, but Ezra convinces the crew to agree, and Sato gives the mission the green light. I have to say, I absolutely do not like this plan. Kanan, not thrilled about the Ghost transformation from a small rebel cell to part of a larger military operation, wants to go back to their Robin Hood ways. Hera reminds him they're fighting for something bigger. What they don't know is Ezra overhears their entire exchange. I'm sure that won't come up later. Meanwhile, Twa, preparing to flee, is tailed by Kallus's probe droid.
So we're not taking the Ghost and we're letting Chopper drive?
The rebels board a Star Commuter 2000 shuttle, leaving the Ghost behind to avoid Imperial tracking. They land on Lothal and see the city crawling with Star Destroyers. Zeb and Chopper stay with the shuttle. The crew heads to the rendezvous point. Kanan takes out a stormtrooper and disguises himself as one, and then infiltrates the Imperials guarding Twa's shuttle. Hera, Ezra, and Sabine take to the rooftops, but they're thrown off when Twa arrives with Kallus, who tells her Vader ordered him to follow her to the shuttle for her safety. The rebels attack, and Twa runs for the shuttle, but it explodes, setting everybody flying. Kallus, whose probe droid recorded everything, accuses the rebels of killing Twa. High above, Vader watches the chaos unfold. The rebels make a break for it, but their shuttle is shot down by an ATDP crashing in the city streets. Vader orders a siege on Lothal to trap the rebels, who are now being blamed for Twa's death on the HoloNet. And that, kids, is how the media lies to you. In one of their safe houses, Ezra's old home, they watch the report before stormtroopers arrive, forcing them to run as the house is destroyed. Realizing the Imperials will be stretched thin, the rebels plan to steal a shuttle from the Imperial complex. As they leave, Ezra looks at the wreckage of his home one last time. Kanan, still in his stormtrooper disguise, and Ezra, pretending to be a cadet, smuggle the crew inside. They find a shuttle, and also the shield generators they were after earlier, but before they can escape, they sense someone might be approaching. It's Darth Vader.
The cold.
Yeah, it's not gonna be good. Episode 2 opens with Vader confronting Kanan and Ezra, and surprise, surprise, he tosses them around like a bunch of ragdolls. Seriously, it's terrifying how easily he whoops their butts. When Vader uses the Force to bring Ezra's lightsaber to his throat, he taunts Ezra, saying Kanan tricked him into thinking he could become a Jedi. Kanan jumps back into the fight, but Vader drives him back, injuring his shoulder. Sabine and Zeb cause a distraction with thermal detonators, allowing Kanan and Ezra to knock Vader off balance, with 2 exploding droids falling on top of him. The rebels think that they've killed him, But I mean, come on. It's Darth Vader. They flee to the shuttle escapes, but Vader's not worried. His plan is still in motion.
I will mobilize our fighters to pursue.
That will be unnecessary, Commander.
On the shuttle, the crew debates their next move after getting their asses handed to them. Ezra asks who the hell Vader was and how they can fight him, but Kanan tells him Vader is a Sith Lord and they can't fight him. They decide to smuggle themselves off Lothal and contact Lando Calrissian for help. Meanwhile, Vader orders Kallus to burn Tarkin Town, a refugee camp aided by the rebels, to spread fear and draw them out. Kanan contacts Calrissian, who agrees to help for a price: 3 shield generators. No wonder they hate this guy. W1LE, Lando's droid that has a cowboy accent for some reason, assists them at his farm. Seeing smoke from Tarkin Town, Ezra heads there and finds it destroyed. Kanan joins him, and they think about the evil spreading through Lothal. And even though Kanan is scared, Ezra wants to fight. Man, this kid just doesn't know when to quit. Back at Lando's farm, Sabine and W1LE set up sensor buoys to scatter Imperial forces. The rebels, deciding not to return to Lothal, cast the decoys and make for space. The Star Destroyer, Relentless, falls for the diversion, and the rebels escape to the fleet. En route to the fleet, Kanan wonders if they should return at all. The crew debates, but Ezra's vote decides it. They return to Phoenix home. What they don't know is that the shuttle has a tracker on it, and by the time they realize it, they've led Vader right to the rebel fleet. Vader, piloting his TIE Advanced, attacks it, easily decimating Phoenix Squadron. Kanan and Ahsoka sense the dark presence and realize it's Vader. Ahsoka, feeling a terrifying familiarity, faints, while Vader, recognizing Ahsoka, is pleased. Making someone faint just by sensing you? That's some serious aura.
The apprentice lives.
As the battle begins, the Ghost crew evacuates Phoenix home through hyperspace. Hera's plan to escape involves flying between 2 Star Destroyers, tricking their tractor beams into catching Vader's TIE instead. The Ghost jumps to hyperspace. After the battle, Ahsoka asks Ezra and Kanan about the Sith Lord that they faced, and says she doesn't know who he is. Yeah, I doubt that. Meanwhile, Vader reports his findings to Emperor Palpatine. They discuss the implications of Ahsoka's survival and the possibility of finding other lost Jedi, including Obi-Wan Kenobi. The Emperor orders another Inquisitor to continue the hunt, keeping the pressure on the growing rebellion. Episode 10 opens with a passenger ship being captured by an Imperial-class Star Destroyer. The Inquisitor is bored, searching for a child, Allura, with her grandmother, Darja. Cornered, Darja warns them to stay away, but the Seventh Sister creepily assures them they just want to make friends with Allura. Yeah, I doubt that. On Garel, Ahsoka visits Kanan and briefs him on her investigation into the Sith Lord and the Inquisitor's mission to make retrievals. She decodes coordinates and asks Kanan to check one while she handles the other.
Hey! She did say this was Jedi business.
Ezra volunteers to join. Kanan, Zeb, Ezra, and Chopper head to Takabo to beat the Inquisitors. In the city, the rebels split up. Ahsoka finds the ship attacked by the Inquisitors and deserted except for Darja, who tells her the Inquisitors took Allura. Ahsoka promises to find the baby. On Takabo, Zeb and Chopper find 2 advanced TIE fighters and Allura in one cockpit. Kanan and Ezra find the ransacked apartment of Ura, an injured Ithorian. Ura says the Inquisitors were after her child, Pipey, but she sent him away with the droid. Kanan tells Zeb to find Pipey. Zeb sends the droid off as a decoy, but is spotted by the Inquisitors. Zeb hides in an apartment building. The Inquisitors sense Pipey's presence and deploy a probe droid. Kanan and Ezra evade the probe, find Zeb and Pipey. The baby cries at Ezra, alerting the Inquisitors. The rebels cut through the ceiling to escape. Ezra realizes the Inquisitors' mission is to abduct Force-sensitive children. The rebels split up. Ezra escapes with Pipey through vents, while Kanan and Zeb hold off the Inquisitors. The 5th brother senses them in the vents, and he attacks. Ezra calms Pipey through the Force, while Kanan and Zeb arrive to fight. Ezra heads back to the Phantom with Pipey, who is spotted by a probe droid. Kanan and Zeb retreat by jumping onto a passing speeder. The Inquisitors hijack another speeder, and they give chase. Kanan shoots out their speeder, but the 5th brother crashes their ride with his lightsaber. They continue on foot. Look at the poor guy whose rider they just trashed. Are they really heroes if they hurt somebody like that? At the spaceport, the rebels are trapped, and the Inquisitors catch up. Just as things look bad, Ahsoka arrives and overpowers the Inquisitors, showing off her skills. She catches the Seven Sisters' lightsaber hilt and turns it off. Ahsoka force pushes her into a pillar. Imperial reinforcements arrive, but Ahsoka leaps aboard the Phantom and they escape. Pipey is reunited with his grandmother. Ahsoka realizes the Inquisitors are abducting Force-sensitive children. An old Sith trick. The rebellion must protect these children. The Inquisitors find their ships destroyed and learn from a probe droid recording of Ezra that the rebels are hiding on Garel. And that's why you don't mention your super secret base out loud. While snoozing in his bunk, Ezra has a wild force vision of his parents in prison, a white loth cat, and fighting Imperials on Gorel. Waking up, he falls out of bed thanks to Zeb snoring. Ezra interrupts a meeting between Hera and Kanan, discussing plans for a new rebel base. After Ezra shares his vision, Hera and Kanan reveal they still can't find which Imperial prison holds his parents. On the Star Destroyer Relentless, Admiral Constantine tells the Inquisitors there's no rebel activity on Gorel. Fifth Brother questions him, and Constantine wants results. Agent Callus confirms the Inquisitor's theory that rebels hide ships in multiple spaceports. Seventh Sister is surprised Callus respects the rebels, but he says working together can catch them. I'd respect somebody too if they kept owning me every chance they got. I'd hate them, but I'd respect them. On Gorel, Ezra looks at a hologram of his parents when Hera calls him. She reveals intercepted info about a mass escape from an Imperial prison, sparking Ezra's hope. Kanan teaches Ezra a Jedi technique to use the Force to focus on the prisoner list. Ezra sees a vision of the white loth cat and a helmeted figure. Zooming in on prisoner X-10, Ezra insists they must go to Lothal. Sabine mentions the Imperial fleet left Lothal's orbit, making it a perfect time to go.
I know you have to go, but that doesn't mean you have to go alone.
Zeb and Chopper are shopping when they see stormtroopers show up. Hera orders Sabine to splice the Empire's jamming system. Kanan and Ezra assist Zeb and Chopper in the marketplace. Ezra charges Agent Callus, taking out stormtroopers before force pushing Callus into a wall. Fifth Brother and Seventh Sister arrive, goading Ezra. Kanan closes the blast doors, stopping the fight. Ezra snaps at Kanan, who reminds him he never knew his parents. But maybe Ezra still has a chance. On board the Ghost, Hera contacts Commander Sato about Escape Plan Delta. Kanan, Ezra, Zeb, and Chopper run for the ship, chased by stormtroopers. The Ghost takes off. Kanan and Ezra in the Phantom head for Lothal. Sabine aims the Ghost torpedoes at the Relentless's tractor beam. Hera takes out the tractor beam dish and escapes into hyperspace. Sabine asks if they're going to Lothal or staying with the fleet. Hera decides to stick with the fleet. Above Lothal, the Phantom exits hyperspace. Kanan and Ezra, relieved not to see Star Destroyers, land in Capital City. Visiting the Bridgers' old home, they find it destroyed. Ezra spots a white loth cat and plants a tracker on it. They follow the signal to the wilderness, encountering the loth cat and a helmeted figure. Ezra recognizes the man as X-10 and convinces him to stand down. The man, Ryder, confirms that he knows Ezra's parents. Ryder reveals he was the governor of Lothal, imprisoned for supporting Ezra's parents' broadcasts.
Even imprisoned, your parents would stand up for those who couldn't, especially after they heard your message.
Ezra learns his parents staged a prison breakout, but didn't survive. Ezra, heartbroken, receives a comforting hug from Kanan. Oh, that's so much pain. Later, under Lothal's moons, Ezra experiences another vision of his parents. They tell him they're proud and encourage him to stay strong. Kanan finds him and explains the Jedi teach that life doesn't end with death, but changes form, assuring Ezra his parents will always be with him. Man, for a franchise about space colonization, Star Wars can really be beautiful sometimes. Low on fuel, the Ghost heads to an asteroid gas refinery. Ezra hears high-pitched cries and sees massive creatures floating through space. These are Purrgil, space-dwelling creatures capable of hyperspace travel.
What the bloody blazes are those?
Yep, they're space whales. Because why not? It's Star Wars after all. The Purrgil swarm the Ghost, and Hera's ready to blast them, but Kanan advises caution. Ezra suggests flying with the herd, and it works, calming the Purrgil. Ezra senses that they are trying to communicate through the Force. Hera's not convinced and calls the Purrgil a menace that blocks hyperspace travel. Damn, Hera, stop hating on those nice space whales, come on. Two Mining Guild TIE fighters attack the Purrgil. Kanan and Ezra take out the TIEs. Sabine tracks the TIEs to the refinery. As they approach, they cut all power to save energy. Hera explains her grudge against the Purrgil, seeing them as cosmic road hazards that cause deadly collision. Ezra suggests maybe the Purrgil aren't aware of the harm they cause. Typical Ezra, seeing the good in giant space whales. We love this kid. The Ghost detects an energy source ahead, the gas refinery. Sabine devises a plan to infiltrate it. The Ghost lands on a nearby asteroid, and Hera outlines their plan to steal fuel. Ezra says the Purrgil want the fuel too, but Hera tells him to focus on the mission. Inside the refinery, the boss, Yushin, orders his cannons to shoot any Purrgil. Kanan, Sabine, and Ezra wear helmets for their jump to the refinery. They jump down to the landing platform, but then they're attacked by guards. Sabine wants to set off detonators, but Ezra insists the Purrgil need the gas. They change the plan, with Ezra manning a gun while the others secure the landing zone. Hera lands the Ghost, and Ezra gets knocked into a gas-covered crater. Oh no. Zeb powers up the Ghost systems, while Hera takes out a gun replacement. TIE fighters surround the Ghost, and Hera is not happy. Ezra wakes up on top of the Purrgil King, who hands him his helmet. By staring into the Purrgil King's eye, Ezra bonds with the creature and rides the herd back to the refinery.
I don't believe it.
The crew is cornered by Yushin's guards and TIE fighters. Yushin demands their surrender, but Ezra and the Purrgil attack, saving the day. Yushin meets a grim fate via the Purrgil's jaws. The Ghost takes off with its fuel and bombards the refinery. Ezra reunites with the crew, telling Kanan he bonded with the Purrgil and learned they need the gas for hyperspace travel. Hera, now grateful to the Purrgil, suggests they follow the space whales. The Purrgil jump into hyperspace, and the rebels follow. Take it in, because I don't know how many of these moments Vader is going to let us have. On the stormy world of Usalon, Kanan and Ezra are fighting the persistent Inquisitors, the seventh sister and the fifth brother. The Jedi and Chopper are there to scout for a rebel base, but the Inquisitors' arrival means it's a no-go. Ezra nearly falls off a cliff, but Kanan saves him. Ezra uses the Force to summon a Tibidi, and they escape by jumping onto the creature. Chopper arrives with the Phantom, and they fly away. These guys just love close calls.
Whew, that was a close one.
In hyperspace, Ezra and Kanan discuss the Inquisitor's threat. Kanan asks Hera to meet them in deep space. Zeb asks if they found a new base, and Ezra reports they encountered Inquisitors. Hera tells Kanan that someone is waiting for him. Kanan explains they need to stay away from the fleet to avoid attracting Inquisitors. Duh. Ezra finds Ahsoka in Kanan's cabin, watching a hologram of Anakin Skywalker teaching lightsaber combat. Ahsoka explains that Anakin was her teacher. Ezra, impressed, says Anakin was the greatest warrior of the Clone Wars. Ahsoka agrees, recalling Anakin's kindness and loyalty, but doesn't know what happened to him. She last saw him rushing to save Supreme Chancellor Palpatine. Kanan joins, worried about the Inquisitors. Ahsoka mentions how Anakin sought wisdom from Jedi like Obi-Wan and Yoda. This gives Kanan an idea. Return to the Jedi Temple on Lothal for guidance. They leave on the Phantom without telling the crew, hoping to keep everyone safe. Hera, Zeb, and Sabine watch them leave, with Hera saying sometimes it's better not to know. Man, that's rough. The trio arrive at Lothal and heads to the Jedi Temple. Ezra tells Ahsoka he's from Lothal. Kanan and Ezra use the Force to lift a great stone, revealing a new entrance. Chopper stays outside to keep watch. Inside, the door closes behind them, and they meditate. Kanan sees a bridge light from a doorway, and he follows it, finding himself in a dojo with a Jedi Temple guard, the Sentinel. The Sentinel says fighting the dark side is pointless, and that Ezra will become consumed by it, so he needs to kill him. The Sentinel ignites his lightsaber, and Kanan engages in a duel to protect Ezra. Chopper detects incoming Imperials and flees just before the Inquisitors arrive. The seventh sister senses the Jedi are there and sends a droid to scan the structure, realizing it's a Jedi temple. Ezra asks Ahsoka about Yoda. She recalls Yoda teaching younglings and how the Clone Wars saddened him. Ezra then finds himself in the same chamber where he previously spoke to Yoda, now seeing him face to face. Yoda warns that Ezra's growing powers come with great danger. Kanan and the Sentinel duel, with Kanan struggling. The Sentinel, flanked by two other temple guards, says Kanan will never be strong enough to protect Ezra from the dark side. Ahsoka hears Anakin asking why she abandoned him, turning into Darth Vader. She starts crying. Oh, man. Ezra asks Yoda if he can destroy Vader and the Inquisitors. Yoda explains that the Jedi fell due to fear, anger, and hate during the Clone Wars. Ezra asks if fighting to protect friends is wrong, but Yoda says it's a lifelong challenge to avoid anger. Kanan agrees he can't protect Ezra forever. He can only train him. The Sentinel then performs a knighting ceremony, revealing he was once the Grand Inquisitor. He tells Kanan to flee as the temple falls, promising to delay the enemy. Kanan is shocked, but he leaves. Ahsoka, back on her feet, says there's still a way, before running through a doorway. Ezra is still asking Yoda how to win without fighting. Yoda says it's about how they choose to win, and tells Ezra to find Malachor. This green fraud never keeps it simple. The Inquisitors enter the temple, but face the temple guards. Ezra, Kanan, and Ahsoka reunite and flee through the catacombs. Ahsoka senses Yoda's presence and sees him wave. They reach the Phantom and escape. Ezra tells the others Yoda mentioned Malachor, and Ahsoka reveals it's a place, not a person. Back on Lothal, Darth Vader arrives at the temple, pleased with its discovery. The fifth brother says the Jedi's growing power will be their undoing. I think I know what he means, and I don't really like that. The episode opens with Rex chatting with Ahsoka aboard the Phantom. Rex offers to join her mission, but Ahsoka declines. They tease each other about rank, and Rex wishes her the best. Ahsoka rejoins Kanan and Ezra. When Ezra asks why Rex was worried, Kanan explains that Malachor was off-limits to Jedi. Ahsoka says there's always some truth in legends, but Ezra wonders why Yoda would send them there if it was off-limits. I mean, it's Yoda. Wise, but also categorically insane, so I'm not surprised that he sent them to an off-limits planet. Kanan suggests Malachor has something to help stop the Inquisitors, while Ahsoka says they seek knowledge to defeat the Sith. Chopper detects another ship. They land and investigate. Ahsoka deciphers encryptions.
I can only make out a few words.
Ezra touches one, causing them to fall into a cavern. They find a massive structure, which Ahsoka identifies as an ancient Sith temple. This is gonna be bad. They approach the Sith temple. Ahsoka explains they seek forbidden knowledge. They find an old battlefield with fallen lightsabers and statues of long-dead combatants. Ahsoka recalls a battle where Jedi attacked the Sith temple, but nobody won. Kanan interrupts, saying they need to keep moving. Guess there's no time for a history lesson. Suddenly, one of the statues moves. The armored figure reveals himself as the 8th brother, an Inquisitor. He hurls explosives. Ezra falls into an underground tunnel, and Ahsoka and Kanan chase the Inquisitor. Ezra hears a voice in the darkness. The stranger assures Ezra he means no harm, and he says he's been stranded on Malachor for years. Ezra reluctantly shares that he and his friends are on a quest. The stranger, calling himself Old Master, suggests that they work together to enter the Sith temple. Ezra says his name is Jabba. Ha, still funny. But in all seriousness, there's something familiar about this guy. I just can't quite put my finger on it. Ahsoka and Kanan chase the 8th brother on Malachor's surface, while Chopper finds the Inquisitor's ship. Kanan orders Chopper not to let the Inquisitor escape. Meanwhile, Ezra and the Old Master journey to the Sith temple. The Old Master reassures Ezra that the Inquisitors and their Sith Masters are his enemies too. Ezra asks if the Old Master was a Jedi. The man replies that he was once a Force wielder, but the Sith used him and took everything from him. Ezra sympathizes, as the Empire took his home and his parents. When the Old Master asks if Ezra wants revenge, Ezra says that he wants justice. The Old Master claims the temple has the knowledge to destroy the Sith. Now that I think of it, those tattoos on that old man look awfully familiar. Chopper forces his way into the Inquisitor's ship, encountering the Inquisitor's red blades. Despite opposition, he manages to knock the Inquisitor down. Kanan and Ahsoka disarm and capture the 8th brother. Meanwhile, Ezra and the Old Master approach the temple. The Old Master explains that to enter, 2 must lift the stones guarding the temple. Ezra struggles, and the Old Master tells him to use his anger. Together, they open the first door, only to find more doors.
Seize the knowledge, seize the power.
Ezra then shares his real name, and the stranger reveals that he's Maul, as in Darth Maul. Oh my god. Kanan and Ahsoka interrogate the 8th brother, who reveals he's hunting a shadow, Darth Maul. Meanwhile, Maul leads Ezra to a Sith holocron on an altar. Ezra tells Maul to throw him to the altar, a trick his master taught him. Maul throws Ezra, who retrieves the holocron as the temple starts to open. Kanan and Ahsoka approach the temple with their captive. The 8th brother contacts the other Inquisitors. Kanan sends Chopper to prepare the Phantom. The altar arises, and Maul levitates Ezra to safety, so he didn't snatch the holocron from him and let him fall to his demise? That wasn't very Darth Maul of him. The 5th brother and 7th sister arrive, freeing the 8th brother. The 3 Inquisitors attack Kanan and Ahsoka. Maul and Ezra arrive, and as soon as everyone sees Maul, they freeze in terror. Yeah, poor Ezra has no idea who he just helped out. Episode 22 opens with Darth Maul saying he's not Darth Maul anymore. He's just Maul. See, now without Darth, the name Maul sounds pretty stupid. Anyway, Maul begins fighting. The 7th sister? Wait, what? Maul, Kanan, and Ahsoka overpower the Inquisitors, forcing them to retreat. Maul claims to seek the same knowledge as the Jedi and warns them that Darth Vader is coming.
You such cowards that you would run from this chance to defeat your enemies.
Maul tells Kanan and Ahsoka they need to bring the Sith holocron to the top of the temple for the knowledge to defeat the Sith. Kanan and Ahsoka reluctantly agree. Maul reassures them that they're on the same side, but they're not buying it, and neither am I. Unknown to them, one of the 7 Sisters' droids is spying on them. Ezra and Kanan argue about Maul. Kanan warns Ezra not to trust him, but Ezra accuses Kanan of holding him back. The 8th brother attacks, but Maul and Ahsoka drive him away. Maul advises splitting up, and despite Kanan's objections, Ezra follows Maul. Ahsoka reassures Kanan that Ezra will be fine. Yeah, I don't know about that one. Maul starts doing his Sith Lord BS, trying to turn Ezra on Kanan, telling him to use his powers fully. They're ambushed by the 7th sister and her droids. Kanan and Ahsoka face the 5th and 8th brothers. Maul and Ezra defeat the 7th sister, but Maul straight up ends her. Maul sends Ezra to plant the holocron, while he helps Kanan and Ahsoka. Maul swiftly kills the 5th brother. Kanan damages the 8th brother's lightsaber, causing him to fall to his death when he tries to fly away. But Maul calls Ezra his apprentice, and attacks Kanan's eyes with his lightsaber, blinding him. Oh my god! Ahsoka defends Kanan, and Maul reveals his plan. The temple is actually a battle station, and he's going to use it to destroy his enemies. Yeah, okay, that is the Darth Maul I know. At the top of the temple, Ezra activates the holocron, and the temple talks to him? Well, that's weird, but then again, this is Star Wars, so we've seen weirder stuff before. Anyway, the temple tells him that knowledge is power.
Knowledge is power.
And then it powers up, which is not what he wanted. Meanwhile, Ahsoka fights against Maul, who says Ahsoka can't stop him. Kanan put on a mask and is backed up, ready to take on Maul. Without his eyes, he uses the Force to fight Maul, and he absolutely embarrasses him, blocking all of his attacks before just throwing him off the temple. Let's go! Back in the temple. The temple is still talking to Ezra, asking if it wants to wield the power to end life. When Ezra says that's not what he wants, the voice says maybe the other guy will. Who's the other guy, you ask? Darth Vader. Ooh boy. He kicks Ezra's ass and destroys his lightsaber because of course he does. But just before he can finish him, Ahsoka jumps in to protect him, saying she'll avenge Anakin Skywalker. Ahsoka fights Vader while Kanan and Ezra remove the holocron, causing the temple to collapse. Vader pushes Ahsoka over the edge and tries to use the Force to steal the holocron from Ezra. But Ahsoka jumps back in and damages his helmet. Vader, now partially revealed as Anakin, confronts Ahsoka. She refuses to leave him, and they continue fighting as the temple collapses. Ezra, Kanan, and Chopper escape on the Phantom. The temple explodes, seemingly killing Ahsoka and Vader. Kanan comforts a crying Ezra as they return to Chopper Base, greeted by Hera, Sabine, Zeb, Rex, and AP-5. Hera embraces the blind Kanan. Ezra and Rex share a look, mourning Ahsoka. We see a TIE fighter escape from Malachor, piloted by— oh, come on already! On Malakor's surface, a damaged Darth Vader limps away from the destroyed temple. Ahsoka can also be seen. She's alive, and she walks back into it. But why? Back on the Ghost, the crew silently deals with their losses. And in his darkened room, Ezra assesses the Sith holocron using the dark side, his eyes reflecting its red light. Season 3 opens with Ezra and his crew sneaking into an Imperial prison on Naraka to rescue Hondo. They crawl under a walkway. Zeb praises Ezra's plan. Ezra calls Chopper to jump quietly, using the Force to stop him from triggering a sensor light. Chopper opens the prison door, and they head to cell 6609 to get Hondo. Sabine isn't thrilled, but Ezra reassures her. They unlock the cell, and find Hondo with his cellmate Turba. Suddenly, a stormtrooper appears, and a firefight breaks out. They contact Hera to break them up while exchanging fire with stormtroopers.
Here, make yourself useful.
Oh, Mandalorian!
Turba tries to escape and gets blasted by an ATDP walker. Ezra uses the Force to control the walker pilot, taking out remaining stormtroopers. The pilot drives the walker over the edge. Sabine asks when Kanan taught Ezra that trick, and he replies coldly, he didn't. Shenanigans of the— Sorry, I can't do a Yoda. Shenanigans of the dark side, I see. Stormtroopers attack from behind, and the Ghost dives under the bridge. Ezra orders everyone to jump aboard. Aboard the Ghost, Hera asks if the walker was helping them. Zeb explains Ezra's mind trick. Ezra defends his actions. Hondo thanks them for the rescue, but demands payment. Hera scolds Ezra for not being responsible for everybody. Ezra storms off, blaming Turba for his own death. The Sith holocron tells him his anger gives him his strength, and Ezra promises to become more powerful. I don't know how he doesn't see this is exactly how you turn into a bad guy. Governor Price meets with Tarkin about the rebels. Price asks for the 7th Fleet, and Tarkin grants her command. Back on Atalon, Hondo demands payment for his rescue. Hera insists the rescue itself is his payment. Sato says they'll honor the deal if Hondo's info proves useful. Hondo reveals the location of the Imperial Reclam Station on Yarma. Ezra pushes to proceed with the mission, and Sato promotes him to Lieutenant Commander. Hera tells Ezra Kanan would be proud, but Ezra shrugs it off. Okay, Mr. Too Cool. Kanan meditates at Chopper Base. Hera tells him Ezra blames himself for Malachor. Kanan confronts Ezra about the Sith holocron. They argue, and Ezra insists he's using it for good. Kanan warns him about the dark side. Ezra says he doesn't need Kanan or the holocron. Yeah, okay, you just became a Jedi all by yourself, did you, huh? Ezra and his team travel to Reclam Station. Sabine says they can't jump directly to Yarma. They encounter mining guild patrols. Sabine speeds up, and Chopper and Sabine shoot down the ships before jumping to hyperspace. Kanan follows a voice to Bendu, who says he'll help him reconnect with the Force. Admiral Constantine chats with Tarkin, downplaying the rebel threat. Thrawn walks in, introduced by Tarkin. Thrawn shows a hologram linking the rebels' recent actions to Reclam Station. Thrawn promises to tear the rebels apart, piece by piece. Man, these guys are despicable.
They'll be the architects of their own destruction.
The Phantom arrives above Yarma. Sabine spots Reclam Station among gas clouds. Ezra insists on a heist, despite Zeb's objections. They encounter Imperial droids and stormtroopers. The Phantom gets hit, and Sabine docks the ship under the station. Titus orders an alert to Price. Ezra and his team board the station. Quick question. None of them are wearing seatbelts, so how are they not dead? They encounter Ugnaught workers, and Hondo convinces them to help. Ezra orders his team to refuel the Y-Wings. Kanan faces his fears with Bendu and regains his connection to the Force.
But there's another one right behind me.
You are beginning to see.
Kanan senses Ezra is in trouble and heads back to help, leaving the Sith holocron with Bendu. Droids and stormtroopers attack the rebels. Ezra fights off stormtroopers. Hera calls, and Ezra lies, but she catches on. Hera and Kanan head out to help. Ezra disarms Titus, who reveals he sabotaged the control unit. Ezra cuts power to unlock the bombers, risking everyone on board. Titus orders an evacuation. The Y-Wings are unlocked. Chopper pilots the Y-Wings into space, but they've no hyperdrive. An Imperial Star Destroyer launches TIE fighters. Ezra loses the Phantom. The Ghost and Phoenix Nest arrive, and a space battle ensues. Kanan saves Ezra just in time. Thrawn orders the rebels to be allowed to escape, planning something bigger. The rebels jump into hyperspace. Back at Chopper Base, Hera scolds Ezra for disobeying orders, endangering his team, and losing the Phantom. She suspends his command. Later, Ezra apologizes to Kanan, and they reconcile. Finally! Can't have the show without them talking to each other, come on! The episode kicks off with a Phoenix Cell transport ship carrying food to Terralov, escorted by 6 A-Wings. An Imperial cruiser shows up with TIE interceptors, wiping out the A-Wings and targeting the transport. Despite the captain trying to surrender, Captain Volt Scaris blasts the cockpit. Whew, it's pretty brutal. At Chopper Base, Ezra and Sabine rush in, hearing the supply run failed. Hera confirms they lost the escort and everyone on the transport. Ezra worries about their dwindling pilots. Commander Sato mentions a solution with Fulcrum. Via hologram, Fulcrum says some Imperial cadets at Skystrike Academy want to defect. Hera assigns Sabine the mission, with Ezra, Kanan, and Chopper as backup, while she and Zeb escort a new convoy to Terralov. Sabine, disguised as a TIE pilot cadet, joins the academy. Her ID card gets rejected, but works on the second try. She sneakily pulls out a comlink. On a rebel ship, Ezra, Kanan, and Chopper get the news that Sabine is in. Ezra is restless, but Kanan reassures him she'll be fine. At the academy, Instructor Goron tells the cadets only the best will survive. Sabine is on a simulated patrol with her wingman, Wedge. They must destroy 4 simulated Y-Wings and a surrendering rebel transport. Sabine protests, saying protocol is to board surrendering ships. Wedge covers for her. Just before they destroy the transport, the Ghost destroys them in the simulation. Sabine is surprised to see the Ghost. Goron warns insubordination will get them killed. Wedge suspects Sabine's bravery, but warns others won't.
And I know right from wrong.
I respect that. A lot of people here won't.
Governor Price and Agent Callus arrive to investigate defecting cadets. Sabine overhears Wedge and his friends Hobby and Rake talking about something risky. Sabine tells Wedge she's from the rebellion and plans to help them escape. Wedge is relieved the rebels got his signal. Price suggests getting the cadets back into space. Goron orders the cadets to their ties. Sabine meets Wedge and his friends, saying there's a rebel ship nearby. They fly out, but Price detaches their ties solar collectors, straining them in space. She orders Scaris to destroy one of the pods, killing Rake. Sabine tells Ezra to get out, but he refuses. Kanan orders Chopper to get them into hyperspace. Back at the academy, Sabine, Wedge, and Hobby are brought to Price. Sabine admits she's the rebel, and Wedge accidentally reveals her real name. Price orders Callus to take Wedge and Hobby to a cell. Price taunts Sabine, calling her a runaway cadet. Sabine fights back when uncuffed, knocks out Price, and frees Wedge and Hobby. They run, dodging blast doors until Callus stops them. He tells them to head to Hangar 24 and tells them to tell Zeb that they're even. They make a run for it in a TIE bomber, but it's slow. Scaris chases them, and the bomber takes hits. At the last moment, Ezra's ship arrives, and they jump to hyperspace. Back at Chopper Base, Sabine introduces Wedge and Hobby. Wedge says he heard they need good pilots, and Sato welcomes them to the rebellion. More rebels, that's what I like to see.
Welcome to the rebellion.
When the episode starts, it's nighttime on Lothal, and Kanan, Ezra, and Chopper are on a rooftop. The place is crawling with stormtroopers, AT-AT walkers, and Star Destroyers. Chopper spots Ryder's landspeeder being chased by Imperial speeder bikes and an AT-DP walker. Ezra and Kanan jump into Ryder's speeder. The speeder bikes keep chasing, but one overheats and explodes. Ryder explains they've been sabotaging those bikes at the local Imperial factory. They arrive at Ryder's hideout, where Ezra meets Murad Sumar again. Murad says Ezra's parents would be proud. Joined by Murad's wife, Merida, and the Ithorian bartender Joe, they plan to take out the Imperial Armory complex with help from another rebel cell. Murad mentions the Empire has tightened security around Section A2 and moved the best workers there, so they agree to sneak in. They all sneak into the Imperial factory. Governor Price, Agent Callus, and Lieutenant Least call in inspection. Thrawn criticizes the factory's high malfunction rate. He orders Murad to demonstrate a speeder's bike full speed, which explodes, killing him. Thrawn warns the workers they'll now test everything they build themselves. Ezra wants to attack Thrawn, but Kanan holds him back. Thrawn orders a lockdown to inspect for sabotage. Kanan tries to contact Hera, but the Imperials are jamming their signal. Kanan and Ezra need to avoid the inspection line.
Chopper, get their attention.
Chopper causes a distraction, letting Kanan and Ezra escape. They knock out stormtroopers and steal their uniforms. Price and Thrawn discuss security, with Thrawn ordering anyone entering Sector A2 without his code to be terminated. Well, that's going to be a problem. At Ryder's camp, he contacts Hera to warn about the lockdown and Thrawn. Hera agrees to launch a distraction at the East Gate. Kanan, Ezra, and Chopper get Chopper a clearance code from an Imperial droid, letting him enter Section A2 and download the plans. Thrawn inspects items related to the rebels, deducing their attachment to Lothal. Kallus, realizing the rebels' mission, secures Section A2. Ezra and Kanan, in disguise, run into stormtroopers, but bluff their way out. Chopper returns with the plans, and they run, chased by stormtroopers. In a turbo lift with Kallus, where he reveals he's a fulcrum. They don't buy it, but Kallus proves his identity using a code phrase. He helps them access a communication station, where they contact Ryder. After talking with Ryder, Kallus tells Ezra and Kanan where to go. Ryder's group attacks the East Gate, distracting the Imperials while Ezra, Kanan, and Chopper hide in an AT-DP walker. Thrawn orders the AT-ATs to destroy their walker, suspecting it's under rebel control. They escape through the roof, and Ryder's group picks them up.
Sumar?
He didn't make it.
Back at the encampment, Ezra, Kanan, and Ryder inform Hera, Sabine, Zeb, and Sato via hologram about the new TIE interceptor with shields. Sabine is shocked to learn Kallus is Fulcrum, but Hera advises caution with Kallus until they know his true intentions. So even Hera doesn't trust him. What kind of Fulcrum is he? At Imperial HQ, Thrawn deduces that there's a spy and plans to use the spy as an asset once discovered. Kallus pretends to be loyal, praising Thrawn's strategy while secretly helping the rebels. The episode opens with Kallus waking up to an alarm. He finds stormtroopers prepping for battle stations. Kallus asks Least if they're under attack, but Least says they're chasing a stolen shuttle. In the landing bay, Kallus finds stormtroopers dragging out a helmeted bounty hunter. It's Ezra. Kallus orders him to be taken to the detention block, with Chopper and AP-5 also escorted off the shuttle. After throwing Ezra into a cell, Kallus scolds him for getting captured, but Ezra says most stormtroopers don't recognize him now. Kallus warns that if his collusion with the rebels is discovered, he's absolutely toast. Ezra tells Kallus the rebels think the Empire monitored his recent Fulcrum transmission. Kallus is shocked Ezra got captured just to warn him. Ezra says he came to get him out, and Kallus agrees. Least orders the guards to open the cell. Ezra pretends to be tortured, saying he'll tell Kallus anything. Least is impressed and says Thrawn wants to see the prisoner. Kallus insists Ezra is just a bounty hunter, but Least says he's from Lothal. That's enough. They head to the landing bay and encounter AP-5 and Chopper. Least demands to know why they're there, and AP-5 claims that they have a recording of the shuttle theft as testimony. Least tells them to come along. They travel to Thrawn's flagship, the Chimera. Least hands Ezra over to stormtroopers, who take him to detention block B7. AP-5 tells Chopper they need to update their status to the retrieval team. Kanan and Rex are flying a stolen shuttle when Chopper informs them they're on Thrawn's Star Destroyer. Rex freaks out, and Kanan tells Chopper to get the right codes. On the Chimera, AP-5 tells Chopper they need an officer's port for the codes. Kallus and Least walk past officers escorted by stormtroopers. Least asks why they're there, and Kallus guesses. They approach Thrawn's office, and the stormtrooper on guard demands their code cylinders. Inside, while Thrawn is sparring with sentry droids, Admiral Constantine introduces them to Colonel Yularen. Thrawn explains why they're looking for a rebel spy codenamed Fulcrum. Kallus realizes that Ezra was right. Thrawn explains Fulcrum is feeding the rebels information, causing Imperial failures. List promises to find the spy, but Thrawn warns nobody is above suspicion. Yularen advises them to watch their peers closely. Thrawn insists they must find the spy quickly, as he's close to locating the rebel base. Outside, Yularen asks Kallus who the traitor is. Kallus suggests someone in communications. Yularen thinks it's too obvious, and says the spy has a hidden transmission system. Kallus offers to help. They meet Governor Price, who praises Kallus for the shuttle capture, but Kallus gives all the credit to Least. Kallus then makes Least think Price is Fulcrum, switching their code cylinders, and heads to get Ezra.
You don't mean Price is the rebel spy? That's why she wasn't in the meeting.
Price meets with Thrawn and Yularen. Thrawn is sure the spy will try to warn the rebels. Yularen reports a coded rebel message was sent after an off-ship prisoner was moved to detention block B7. Thrawn decides to visit the prisoner. Kallus finds AP-5 and Chopper arguing, turns off the cameras, and leads them to Ezra's cell. Ezra insists on getting out, but AP-5 says that they need clearance codes. Kallus tells Ezra Thrawn is close to finding their base. Kallus wants to delete the rebel base from Thrawn's chart. Ezra insists on keeping it secret, but Kallus says he can remove it from Thrawn's list. AP-5 suggests accessing Thrawn's office. Callus contacts Least, who reports Price is heading to the detention block. Callus tells Least to watch Price. Callus, Ezra, and the droids get Ezra an Imperial uniform. When Thrawn enters the detention block, he finds the surveillance off and the prisoner missing. Yularen says Least was the last to enter, so he's screwed. Outside Thrawn's office, Callus gets Ezra to use a Jedi mind trick on the guard, handing over Least's code cylinder. The guard lets them in. Chopper transmits the clearance codes to Kanan and Rex. Ezra says they'll only find out a rebel transmission was made from Thrawn's office. Callus likes that, and Chopper transmits the codes. Rex tells them to meet in the hangar. Examining Thrawn's chart, they see he's close to finding a Tolan. Callus tells Chopper to erase a Tolan and add another planet. AP-5 warns Thrawn is approaching, but it's too late. Callus exits the office. The guard tells Thrawn that Least is inside. Thrawn enters with armed guards. Ezra orders Chopper to shut off the holomap. They hide behind a piece of art as Thrawn enters. Callus sneaks into Thrawn's gym and tampers with his droids. Thrawn fights the droids, sees Least, actually Ezra, fleeing, and realizes the truth. Thrawn contacts Yularen. Man, that dude's scary. Rex and Kanan exit hyperspace above Lothal, seeing Thrawn's fleet. Kanan asks Rex how many ships there are. Rex says, a lot. Just send the codes. A shuttle is cleared to land. Kanan and Rex land in the hangar, disguised as stormtroopers. Ezra, Callus, and the droids reach the hangar, seeing Price greeting Kanan and Rex. Price arrests them, realizing they're disguised rebels. Kanan tries to mind trick Price, but she orders a stormtrooper to stun him. Rex fights Price hand-to-hand. Least, thinking Price is fighting real stormtroopers, believes that she's the traitor. Man, this guy's as sharp as a balloon. Chopper seals the doors as reinforcements arrive. Price grabs a blaster, but Least stuns her, thinking that she's the spy. Least asks the troopers if they're okay, only to realize the officer is Ezra. Callus tackles him and switches their code cylinders back, and tells Ezra he's framing Least for being Fulcrum. Ezra realizes Callus planned this. Callus tells him he can do more good undercover, and won't go with him. Man, he's actually a good guy now. I respect it. The rebels flee on their shuttle as Yularen and reinforcements arrive. Callus grabs Least and denounces him as the rebel spy. Yularen orders stormtroopers to take Least away. Least claims that Price is the spy. Callus remains silent. In Thrawn's office, Yularen informs them Least's code cylinder confirms that he was the spy. Price thanks Callus for saving her. Thrawn tells Callus no apologies needed, as the rebels' assassination attempt did not succeed. Thrawn dismisses them. In private, Yularen tells Thrawn things fell into place too perfectly. Thrawn agrees as the stormtrooper brings in Ezra's helmet.
This is the work of the rebel Sabine Wren.
Thrawn identifies it as Sabine's work and deduces that Ezra is the owner. Yularen asks why Callus didn't tell them about Ezra. Thrawn deduces Callus is the real Fulcrum and explains Callus used Least's code cylinder to frame him. Yularen is shocked, but Thrawn isn't worried. He says Callus will be more useful to the Empire as Fulcrum than ever before. Yep, Callus might be screwed. The episode opens with Grand Admiral Thrawn arriving at the Imperial headquarters on Lothal. Greeted by Governor Price and Admiral Constantine, Thrawn tells them they still have a traitor among them. Thrawn informs Tarkin via hologram that the Phoenix Cell rebels plan to attack the TIE Defender factory on Lothal. Thrawn's spies report General Dodonna's fleet is en route to reinforce Commander Sato and Captain Hera. Callus, eavesdropping, is stunned by the news. Tarkin asks why the rebel fleet is massing, and Thrawn admits he hasn't found their location yet. Price points out that a coordinated attack by multiple rebel cells is unprecedented. Thrawn replies he's been waiting to wipe out the rebellion. Tarkin orders Thrawn to capture the rebel leadership. Thrawn responds that it might not be possible to take prisoners, but Tarkin insists he can pull it off. Callus prepares to leave. At Chopper Base, Ezra is impressed by Hera's success in rallying the rebel forces for a strike on Lothal. Ezra thanks Kanan, Zeb, Sabine, and Chopper. Kanan says Ezra deserves credit too, having taught him about life and being a better person. Oh man, that's really, really beautiful. Hera tells them about General Dodonna and the Masasi group. Dodonna's fleet exits hyperspace, and Sato welcomes him. Dodonna intends to deal a blow to the Empire. On Lothal, Callus rides a speeder bike to Ezra's old home and tries to send an urgent message, but finds his signals are jammed. Thrawn surprises him, saying his rebel friends won't receive his warning. They brawl, but Callus is arrested by Thrawn's death troopers. Thrawn praises Callus's techniques, but points out the limitations of Imperial Academy training. Poor Callus. Things are gonna get real ugly for this guy. Inside the tower, Thrawn tells Callus his transmission gave him the last piece of the puzzle. Thrawn shows a chart displaying Dodonna's fleet trajectory and Callus's Fulcrum transmission, identifying Atollon as the rebel base. Thrawn orders Admiral Constantine to deploy the fleet from there. At Chopper Base, Hera informs the team they received an urgent transmission from Fulcrum. The warning cuts off. Ryder reports that most of the Imperial fleet has left Lothal. Hera realizes Thrawn knows they are on Atollin and orders all ships to battle stations. Dodonna orders the fleet to jump into hyperspace, but the Empire's interdictor vessels trap them. Oh no. Constantine orders the forward batteries to fire, destroying a frigate just as Thrawn exits hyperspace aboard the Chimera. Thrawn contacts the rebel commanders, declaring the rebellion ends today. Hera says they'll never surrender, but Thrawn isn't accepting surrenders at this time. Like I said, he's pure evil. Hera promises to get the fleet to safety. Sato asks how to break the blockade, and Hera replies they need to create an opening for one ship to call for reinforcements. Sato promises to clear an opening. Hera orders Ezra and Kanan to take Darth Maul's Gauntlet starfighter into hyperspace. Kanan insists he has to warn someone in the wilderness. The Ghost departs Chopper Base with the Gauntlet starfighter. Sato launches A-Wing and Y-Wing starfighters against the Imperial fleet. Aboard the Chimera, Thrawn realizes Sato is deploying a Danan strategy. He orders his fleet to reinforce the center and deploy their TIE fighters. The Ghost and the Gauntlet travel with Green Squadron. Hera orders the A-Wings to clear a path for the Gauntlet. During the dogfight, Rex mans the Ghost top turret. The Y-Wings bomb a Star Destroyer, but the Rebel fighters are taken out by TIEs. Ezra and Chopper hope Kanan's having better luck. Kanan rides his speeder bike to the Krykna Nest, home of his friend Bendu. Bendu is angry with Kanan for bringing war to his world. Kanan pleads, but Bendu says he's beyond Kanan's worries and wars. Kanan argues some things are worth fighting for. In space, Hera tells her starfighters to keep the TIEs off their cruisers. Dodonna's group needs help, but there are too many ships to protect. Thrawn's TIE fighters inflict serious damage. Sato orders all ships to charge the blockade. Another frigate is destroyed. Thrawn orders his capital ships to hold position, forcing the rebel cruisers to come to them. Ezra and Chopper can't get through while the interdictor cruiser blocks them. Sato comes to a decision, ordering his crew to abandon ship, but two stay with him. The Phoenix Nest flies towards the Imperial fleet. Sato is drawing the interdictor out of formation. He charges the interdictor, destroying both ships. R.I.P. Sato. You were a true hero. Hera orders Ezra to take the Gauntlet into hyperspace. Thrawn orders his forces to press on, forcing the rebels to the ground. TIEs destroy Dodonna's frigate. Hera orders all forces to return to Chopper Base. Kanan continues to reason with Bendu, who refuses to fight. Kanan accuses Bendu of cowardice, and Bendu summons a storm, disappearing and saying it may be the will of the Force that all Jedi perish. In hyperspace, Ezra begs Mon Mothma for reinforcements. Mothma can't send help, fearing it would wipe out everything that they've built. Ezra realizes Thrawn planned all this. Mothma promises to negotiate fair treatment for prisoners. Ezra says that Thrawn doesn't take prisoners. Mothma compliments Ezra for his courage and wishes that the Force be with him. Ezra and Chopper decide to go after Sabine. Since we're not covering every episode, you might wonder why Sabine isn't with them. Here's what you missed. Sabine found the Darksaber important to her people, the Mandalorians, and went home to help them fight the Imperials. Looks like it's time for a Mandalorian Hail Mary. The episode starts at Chopper Base, where Hera studies Thrawn's fleet and deduces he's preparing for orbital lasering. Zeb and Rex worry Sabine's shield generator might overload, but Hera trusts Sabine's work. Zeb fires up the shield generator, enveloping Chopper Base. Hera warns Kanan about Thrawn's bombardment, and Kanan promises to hurry. In space, Price informs Thrawn that the blockade is secured, and Thrawn starts the laser bombing. The Chimera and sister ships unleash fire on Chopper Base. Kanan's speeder dodges blasts, while Rex reports the shield's overheating. Thrawn, Price, and Kallus watch the bombing unfold, while Hera looks up in despair. That is terrifying. Thrawn orders the fleet to stop bombing. Zeb and Rex cheer that the shield held, but Hera warns Thrawn was softening them up. Hera contacts Kanan, who thinks Thrawn is trying to kill them this time. Kanan senses storm clouds gathering. Meanwhile, Ezra and Chopper arrive at Crow Nest, greeted by Sabine, Fen-Ra, and Ursa Wren. Ezra explains Thrawn ambushed them on Atollin and pleads for help, but Ra says it's a bad time. Ursa explains they're in a civil war against Clan Saxon, backed by the Empire. Ezra insists his friends need help, and Ursa lets him speak. Aboard the Chimera, Thrawn assigns Price command of the fleet, while he leads the ground assault. Kallus taunts Thrawn, who says the rebels are about to learn they're not the same. At the Rebel Command Center, Zeb reports the shield generator took a beating and doubts it'll withstand another assault. Hera believes Thrawn will send ground forces next. Dodonna theorizes Thrawn will attack through a narrow canyon, and Rex suggests mining the approaches. Hera agrees and tasks Rex and Zeb with guarding the pass. AP-5 reports Imperial transports incoming, and Hera realizes Thrawn's first wave is coming. On Crow Nest, the rebels and Clan Wren study the Imperial fleet above Atollin. Rao says Ezra should count his losses, but Ezra insists his friends need help. Tristan Wren apologizes, saying Clan Wren is stretched thin. Ezra is ready to leave, but Sabine insists on coming with him, believing in making the impossible possible. Ursa agrees, saying the rebels restored her daughter, a debt worth repaying. Sabine thanks her mother. Rao says they don't have much of an army, but Sabine says they don't need one. On Atollin, Zeb and Rex wait in the pass and spot a column of ATDP walkers. Rex sets off detonators, destroying 5 walkers, and Zeb takes out the last one with a rocket launcher.
They've revealed their meager defenses. Now we will crush them.
Thrawn orders snipers to target mines and AT-ATs to advance. Zeb and Rex's explosives are ineffective against the larger walkers, and they run. AT-ATs blast the rebels as A-Wings attack. In the air, Wedge tells Hobby to follow in his A-Wing. Thrawn orders his air groups to clear the sky of the annoyance. TIE fighters attack, driving away the A-Wings. Rex and Zeb play cat and mouse with an AT-AT. Kanan arrives, using his lightsaber to topple the walker, crushing stormtroopers. Zeb is glad Kanan could join, saying Hera said that he's bringing help, to which Kanan says he doesn't know if he is. They head into a cave as Thrawn's shuttle lands. Thrawn orders the armored division to destroy the rebel ships and the ground troops to storm the base and capture the rebel officers. Rebel troops exchange fire with stormtroopers. Hera tells Dodonna to prepare ships for takeoff. Kanan, Rex, and Zeb avoid death troopers. Meanwhile, Ezra's gauntlet and Fang fighters exit hyperspace behind the Imperial fleet. Ezra tells Chopper to jam transmissions, and Fen Rah orders the Mandalorian fighters to engage. Price recognizes the ships as Sabine's forces and sends TIE fighters. Ezra and Chopper approach the interdictor cruiser. Kanan, Zeb, and Rex arrive as Thrawn's walkers destroy Chopper base. Ezra contacts Hera, saying they'll take out the interdictor. Kanan orders evacuation. Ezra's gauntlet is chased by TIEs. Sabine tells him to focus while Hera gets others out. Chopper sets a course for the interdictor. Ezra, Sabine, Tristan, and Mandalorian warriors jump on the cruiser's hull. Price orders her forces to repel them. Mandalorians fire at the gravity wells, but the Empire sends jump troopers. An AT-AT shoots down a transport. Rebels are surrounded by death troopers. Thrawn confronts Hera, demanding surrender, threatening to execute her friends, starting with the Jedi. Kanan draws his lightsaber. Thrawn's troops form a circle. Hera tells him he knows her answer, as storm clouds envelop the base. Thrawn asks Kanan if he's afraid, and Kanan says he should fear the storm. A lightning bolt narrowly misses Thrawn, and Kanan tells everyone to hold on, as Bendu's eyes appear in the clouds. Bendu announces his presence, destroying AT-ATs with lightning, and everyone runs for cover. Bendu tells the rebels and Thrawn to leave, as he is the light and the dark. Kanan says they should listen. Rebels board the Ghost. Remaining ships take off.
This is your friend?
Might have made him angry.
Bendu strikes down an A-Wing as the convoy runs. Thrawn orders troops to fire at the storm. AT-ATs shoot at the eyes in the clouds. Bendu strikes down a walker before falling out of the clouds. Well, that didn't last very long. In space, Ezra, Sabine, and Mandalorians clash with jump troopers. Ezra and Mandalorians blow up the gravity wells, escaping before the interdictor explodes. Price is livid, and Kallus taunts her. Price orders Kallus thrown out of the airlock. Kallus smiles as the door closes. Hera leads the remaining ships to the blockade. Ezra tells her they took out the interdictor and to meet at point 87. The Ghost fights through the blockade. Kallus gets out in an escape pod, and Hera picks him up. The rebels rendezvous with Ezra's ship. Hera orders the fleet to follow, and Wedge has her back. Together, the rebels break past the blockade. Kallus, Rex, and Dodonna join the Spectres as the fleet jumps to hyperspace. They did it. Back on Atollin, Thrawn surrounds Bendu. Thrawn asks what manner of creature he is. Bendu replies he is beyond Thrawn's power to destroy. Thrawn disagrees, and Bendu prophesizes Thrawn's defeat. Thrawn tries to shoot Bendu, but he disappears, his laughter echoing. In space, the Ghost travels with the tattered fleet. Ursa apologizes for the losses. Hera thanks Clan Ren for the help. Sabine wants to return the favor, but Hera must get survivors to Yavin 4 first. Kallus thanks Kanan for taking him in, and Kanan thanks Kallus for risking everything. Kanan thanks Ezra for helping Sabine save the day. Ezra points out they lost everything, but Kanan says defeat looks different now. He knows a future where they are free, and it's up to them to make it happen. The season kicks off with the Ghost popping out of hyperspace above Yavin. Hera tells Sabine to send clearance codes to Yavin 4. Meanwhile, Ezra wakes up from a nap due to Force vision, startling the crew. He insists Joe and Ryder on Lothal are in danger. Kanan thinks Ezra is just stressed, but Ezra is sure. Hera reminds him Thrawn ambushed their fleet, which upsets Ezra even more. Landing at the Great Temple, Erskine Samaj greets them and says Mon Mothma wants to see them. In the briefing room, Mothma shows Ryder's message about a new TIE Defender. The message cuts off before more details are given. Mothma understands Lothal's importance and asks for volunteers. Ezra is eager, and Hera confirms the whole team is going. Mothma warns that the Alliance may not be able to extract them once they're in, but Ezra is determined to help Lothal. The Ghost meets the Broken Horn in space. Callus distrusts Visago, and Sabine finds it ironic. Ezra says Hondo confirmed Visago's legit business on Lothal. Hera is skeptical, but Ezra reassures her that Visago needs the money. They meet Visago, who's happy to see the cargo hold full of puffer pigs, a profitable venture according to Lando Calrissian. In the cockpit, Hera puts Rex in charge while she's gone, confusing Callus, leading to a funny dispute. The Spectres disguise themselves as civilians and head to Lothal. Visago warns Ezra that Lothal has changed. An Imperial cruiser scans them but gives them clearance. Descending through Lothal's polluted skies, Ezra's horrified. On landing, an Imperial crew approaches. The Spectres hide among puffer pigs, causing chaos when Zeb scares the pigs into inflating. The team sneaks past while Visago stalls, but he hilariously gets stuck trying to retrieve one last pig. In town, they head to Old Joe's pit stop, now run by Baron Ruder.
This establishment belongs to me now. Well, the Empire, of course.
Inside, they blend in by ordering drinks, but Ruder grows suspicious. A red-haired guy, Jai Kel, jumps in, pretending to be Ezra's friend Oleg, and pays for their drinks. Outside, Ezra recognizes Jai, an old friend. Jai says he's been watching for them on Ryder's orders. An explosion signals Hera, Kanan, and Zeb's arrival in a stolen speeder, forcing a retreat when tanks show up. Jai leads them to a sewer entrance. They split up, evading probe droids and stormtroopers. Kanan's group finds a ladder, but it has to flee, while the others find a starboard symbol leading to a larger funnel. Both groups reunite, but they're trapped. Chopper spots a starboard painted hatch, leading them to Ryder. They escape in Ryder's U-Wing. Ryder's disappointed, only the Spectres came, but Ezra says rebellion starts small. Their battle is just beginning. The episode starts with 3 Lothcats running toward Ezra, Sabine, Zeb, and Ryder, who are staking out an Imperial testing facility in Lothal's wilderness. Sabine says only TIE interceptors, but Ryder mentions a new TIE Defender prototype. Hera checks in, reporting that the Empire is beefing up defenses and adding new fuel tanks to the factories. Kanan thinks they're gearing up for full-scale production. Hera orders Ezra to watch until nightfall, and then return. Suddenly, the Defender Elite flies overhead. Ryder wants to leave, but Sabine suggests stealing the flight data recorder. Despite Zeb and Ryder's concerns, Ezra and Sabine sneak off. Teenagers don't listen to anybody. As they sneak onto the base, 2 Lothcats tag along. They see the Elite guarded by stormtroopers. Before Sabine can create a distraction, the Lothcats do it for them. The cats distract and attack the guards, allowing Sabine to board the Elite and extract the flight recorder, while Ezra keeps watch. Zeb warns them of an approaching ship. Grand Admiral Thrawn and Governor Price arrive. Scarus mentions a simulation flight to Thrawn and Price. Sabine, almost done, asks Ezra to distract them. Ezra spots a white Loth wolf and gets distracted himself. A TIE pilot spots Ezra and starts shooting. Thrawn orders his capture, and Price sends death troopers to secure the prototype. Sabine finds the Elite has a hyperdrive. Zeb tells them to head south, but Ezra wants to find their own way out. Sabine, with the data, sees death troopers and decides it's time for Plan B. Ezra dodges stormtroopers, while Sabine fires the Elite's guns. Thrawn calmly shoots the prototype, and Sabine destroys his shuttle. Thrawn orders Scarus to launch 3 TIE interceptors, using the rebels' hope against them. Sabine works to deactivate the homing beacon. Thrawn deduces Sabine is piloting. The Elite has a kill switch, which Thrawn activates, causing the Elite to lose 2 wings. Sabine cuts the signal, crash-landing the ship. They remove the hyperdrive for future use. Zeb and Ryder grumble about the kids' antics back at the U-Wing. Hera, hearing about the crash, leaves to find Ezra and Sabine, who struggle with the heavy hyperdrive. They hide it in an alcove directed by a white Loth cat. Night falls, and the Imperial gunship search for them. Ezra and Sabine hide, moving cautiously. Ezra sees the Loth wolf again, which puts Sabine to sleep. Ezra's about to attack, but sees the earlier Loth cat on the wolf's head. They ride the wolf to escape. I mean, he didn't need to knock Sabine out to do that, but alright. At dawn, the Loth wolf drops them near Ryder's U-Wing. Ezra, grateful, asks why the wolf helped, and it just says, Doom. Sabine wakes up, and the rebels reunite. They ask Ezra how they got there, and he motions to the disappeared wolf. Ezra tells Kanan about the wolf, and Kanan believes him, but he doesn't know what it means. He says all paths are coming together, and they'll find out soon. The Loth wolf watches them leave. The episode opens with Kanan meditating near the rebels' camp. Hera approaches, surprised he didn't join the others to get the hyperdrive. Kanan reflects that the Spectres always return to Lothal, not just because of Ezra. Hera asks if they were destined to meet Ezra, but Kanan doesn't know. Just like Jon Snow, Kanan knows nothing. At the TIE Defender Elite crash site, Governor Price reports to Thrawn that the flight data recorder and hyperdrive are missing. Thrawn deduces the rebels are trying to get the recorder to Rebel Command. He sends Rook, his assassin, to locate the rebels. Nearby, Ezra and Jai, disguised as scout troopers, find the hidden hyperdrive thanks to a white Loth cat. An Imperial gunship lands, and Price greets Rook, who picks up the scent of Zeb and takes off. Jai spots Rook approaching and alerts Ezra. Disguised as scout troopers, they try to fool Rook, but he attacks. Ezra uses the Force to throw Rook into a rock, and he and Jai escape on a speeder bike, with Rook in pursuit. Price and stormtroopers search for Zeb, who steals an Imperial troop transport and narrowly avoids Price. Ezra and Jai speed through rock spires, with Rook chasing them. Ezra blocks Rook's attacks with his lightsaber and takes out one scout trooper with a detonator. Rook loses his bike, but clings to a rock spire, glaring after them. If looks could kill, all of Lothal would be toast. Back at the Rebel camp, Sabine thinks she can install the hyperdrive on Ryder's U-Wing, though it might not work. Kanan asks Hera if she thinks she's given enough to the rebellion. She says maybe once the Empire is overthrown, she'll have given enough. Kanan asks if she's thought about their future, and she admits that she hasn't. Ryder interrupts, alerting them to an incoming transport. Hera rushes off just before they kiss, leaving Kanan frustrated. Ryder, Sabine, and Hera prepare to fire on the transport, only to find Zeb inside. Ezra and Jai arrive, but have a tracker on them. Rook reports the rebel camp's coordinates to Price, who sends reinforcements. Sabine installs the hyperdrive, with a 50-50 chance that it's gonna work. Ryder reports approaching Imperials, and the rebels prepare to fight. Hera kisses Kanan, catching him off guard. Sabine and the others smile at the moment. Hera and Chopper take off in the U-Wing. Aw, finally. On an approaching tank, Rook tells Price he could handle the rebels alone. Price insists on handling it her way, ordering TIE bombers to flatten the mountains. Hera, chased by TIE fighters, heads for the construction modules. She aims for a hangar bay and jumps through it, setting everything inside on fire. Thrawn's officer nervously reports Hera's escape. The rebels come to a clearing where 3 wolves, including the white one that Ezra met, are waiting. Ezra asks if they know the way out, but the wolves just look at Kanan. He steps forward, and the wolves lead them into a tunnel with cave paintings showing people following wolves. In a larger area, Ezra tells Sabine to turn off her flashlight. The ground shakes from bombing, and the white wolf offers Ezra its tail. They follow the wolves into a glowing tunnel. This will be important later, trust me. The rebels wake up in a cave. The wolves wait as they step outside to check their location. Ezra, Sabine, Zeb, and Ryder find themselves on a high mountain ledge with a circular canal in the distance. Sabine calculates they've traveled from the northern to the southern hemisphere of Lothal. Wow, those wolves have some serious skills. Inside, Ezra finds Kanan with the white wolf. Kanan asks about the cave paintings, which reminds him of the Lothal Jedi Temple, showing people following wolves. Kanan wonders what story they tell, and Ezra thinks they depict Jedi following the wolves. The wolf says, Doom, shocking Kanan, who reveals it's part of his birth name, Caleb Doom. He touches the wolf, feeling its connection to the Force and Lothal, and speculates the Empire is doing something worse to Lothal than they realize. The wolf disappears into the wall, revealing the cave painting. Ezra recalls Kanan's words about all paths coming together, but Kanan warns they might not like where the path leads. Ezra asks if he thinks Hera escaped safely, and Kanan confidently replies that she did. At the Great Temple on Yavin 4, Hera lands the U-Wing and is met by Mon Mothman and Erskine Samaj, pleased to see the Defender Elite's flight recorder. The episode starts with the Lothal Resistance setting up a base in newly discovered caves. Sabine struggles to send a long-range transmission due to the Empire's signal jamming. Kanan insists on contacting Hera, and Ezra agrees, emphasizing their need to be ready for an attack. Ryder feels useless hiding in caves, but Ezra reminds them that they've achieved more with less. Sabine picks up a nearby signal, leading the rebels to a mining guild. Zeb suggests hijacking the ore crawler that they find to use it as a long-range transmitter, which Sabine does.
I've got movement. Yep, mining guild security droid.
At the Great Temple on Yavin 4, Hera attends a briefing with Mon Mothman, General Dodonna, Erskine Samaj, and Bail Organa. Dodonna explains they understand the TIE Defender Elite's capabilities, but they found no weaknesses. Organa asks if their ships can match it, and Dodonna admits that they're at a disadvantage. Hera argues they must stop the Defenders' mass production by attacking Lothal's factories, and mentions her team on the ground. Mothma agrees, but asks Hera and Chopper to wait outside while the leaders discuss. Ryder brings the Spectres behind the crawler on a speeder. Sabine uses her jetpack to disable a security droid. The team climbs aboard and finds the captain, Sivor, oblivious, jamming to music on his headphones. Zeb pulls off an earpiece, and Sivor triggers an alarm before being restrained. Ezra crushes his wrist device, but HQ demands an explanation. Ezra, pretending to be Sivor, says they have mechanical issues. Sabine discovers a signal from the reactor room, so Kanan and Zeb head there, leaving Sivor with Ezra and Sabine. In the processing room, Kanan finds slaves, including Visago, who knew the rebels would rescue them. The foreman, a large Trandoshan, attacks Kanan with an electro whip, but Zeb saves him, and they start fighting.
I told him the foreman would be no match for a Jedi.
Foreman?
In the cockpit, Sabine suggests Ezra check on Kanan, but Ezra insists that he's fine. Sivor wakes up and threatens them, so Ezra locks him in a closet. Meanwhile, the foreman battles Zeb outside. Zeb gains the upper hand with Kanan's help. On Yavin 4, Hera hears from Mothma that the leaders are still debating and learns the Empire has activated Protocol 13, evacuating all Imperial personnel. Hera storms into the briefing, demanding immediate action, saying her team is ready to strike. Mothma and the others are moved and grant permission for the attack. Finally! Back on the crawler, Visago is disappointed the rebels didn't come for him, but is roped into impersonating Sivor when Imperial gunships arrive. The slaves pretend to work, while Visago claims mechanical issues caused the crawler to lose clearance codes. The Imperials insist on an inspection. Visago's nervousness almost blows their cover, but the rebels hide in another closet. The Imperials leave, but Sivor escapes into the ventilation system, causing more chaos. Sabine gets the transmitter working, but realizes power has been diverted. Sivor taunts them from the reactor room. Kanan and Zeb find the door locked, so Sabine suggests Ezra crawl through the vents. Reluctantly, he does, coughing from the smoke inside. This is a great reminder to stay away from cigarettes. Seriously. In the engine room, Ezra activates the reactors, but is ambushed by Sivor. During their fight, Ezra's lightsaber ends up in front of a smelter's door, and Sivor slips on it and falls into the smelter. Jeez. Ryder returns with the speeder, and Sabine gets a signal through the rebel command. Ezra says the crawler is theirs now, and the freed slaves are happy to join the rebellion, while Visago appoints himself the crawler's captain. Hera contacts them, confirming the attack is approved and fighters are being prepped. The rebels prepare to assist in the upcoming battle, feeling more hopeful. The episode starts on an Arquettans-class cruiser above Lothal. An officer alerts the captain to an incoming squadron of T-65B X-Wing starfighters led by Hera and Chopper. Hera rallies her pilots to protect the slower Y-Wings and orders them to lock S-foils in attack position. Meanwhile, on the Star Destroyer Chimera, Grand Admiral Thrawn notes the rebels' arrival and orders fighters launched to prevent them from reaching the planet's surface. Hera commands her pilots to accelerate the attack speed, kicking off the battle. Down below, Ezra, Sabine, Zeb, and Kanan plant explosives on the Imperial Armory Complex's air defenses. Zeb questions the potency of the explosives, but Sabine reassures him. Ezra contacts Ryder, who reports his team has finished planting explosives. Ezra says they have one tower left and signs off. Sabine mentions Hera's imminent arrival. Above, the X-Wings are battling TIE fighters. Hera instructs Mart, Phoenix 2, to handle a wingman, who takes down a TIE that crashes into a light cruiser. Hera praises him and orders Phoenix 4 and 5 to thin out the Imperials. Volt Scaris, in his gold-striped TIE Defender Elite, enters the fray, swiftly shooting down Duke and Cleet before chasing Hera. On Lothal, the turrets start firing as Zeb places the last explosives. Ezra, Sabine, and Kanan pull up on speeder bikes. Zeb hilariously yanks Ezra out of the driver's seat to take it himself. Sabine detonates the explosives, collapsing the towers. Governor Price reports the destruction of Thrawn, who finds it impressive but not unexpected. Price warns the factory is vulnerable, but Thrawn is confident the blockade will hold. Yep, I'm not so sure about that, man. In the space battle, Scaris chases Hera, but he can't hit her. Hera leads him towards the Chimera, prompting Thrawn to order Scaris to break off. Scaris refuses, almost having Hera in his sights. Thrawn orders his gunners to fire, and the Chimera's guns bring down both fighters' shields. Hera flies into the smoke from the Chimera's damaged scanning array, forcing Scaris to go around. Hera doubles back, shoots Scaris, and he crashes into a light cruiser. The damaged cruiser crashes into a Star Destroyer, creating an opening for the rebels to race for Lothal. Thrawn admires Hera's skill, but orders a second wave of TIE fighters. As Hera's group enters Lothal's atmosphere, Mart detects enemy fighters, and they're ambushed by a massive force of TIEs. The Spectres, with Ryder and Jai, wait for Hera. They see trails descending on the city and exploding, realizing the attack force is being destroyed. Thrawn confirms this, but notes many Rebel fighters crash-landed, including the flight leader. He sends Rook to capture any survivors, especially Hera. On the burned plains, Sabine spots incoming Imperial gunships, and Kanan tries to contact Hera. Ryder urges them to leave, but Kanan insists on rescuing Hera. Ezra promises that they'll find her, and the rebels reluctantly depart. Hera's fighter crashes in an alley, on fire. Chopper revives the unconscious Hera, and civilians warn her of approaching Imperials. With Chopper's transmitter damaged, they head into the city.
You have to go, now! Cut through the market toward the east gate. Hurry!
On the highway, the Spectres, Ryder, and Jai leave the capital, but Kanan stops, saying he must go back for Hera. Ezra understands, and the rebels head off, trusting Kanan to find her. At the Imperial complex, Governor Price meets Rook, who has captured a rebel pilot. She orders the district locked down to find Hera. In the city, Hera and Chopper find an Imperial blockade guarding a sewer hatch. Kanan sees a Lothwolf on his way to find Hera and almost crashes, yelling at it for being confusing. Hera asks Mart to create a distraction. Mart confronts stormtroopers, drawing their fire, while Hera and Chopper make a plan. Hera drives a speeder into an ATDP, knocking it over. She stuns the driver and tells Mart to go, but Rook attacks. Despite Hera's and Mart's efforts, Rook captures Hera. Governor Price arrives, taunting Hera before stunning her. In the sewers, Mart and Chopper find Kanan. Mart apologizes for not saving Hera, but Kanan assures him he did his best. The three set off on Kanan's speeder bike. Kanan meditates in Lothal's wilderness, reflecting on his time with Ezra, Hera, and Sabine. A white Lothwolf prowls nearby. Ezra approaches, and Kanan tells him to lead the mission to rescue Hera because his feelings for her might complicate things. At the dome, Price tortures Hera. Thrawn enters, asking if Hera has revealed the Rebel fleet's location. Price just says she hasn't started questioning yet. Man, she's evil. Thrawn shows Hera her Kalikori and says its legacy will be appreciated by its owner. He leaves Price, who continues torturing Hera. That's a sick woman right there. Ezra meditates and senses Hera is in Price's office. Sabine identifies the office's location, and Ezra proposes flying in on gliders. Sabine supports the idea, saying the Empire isn't prepared for low-tech attacks. They plan to fly over the garbage chute at the Imperial complex to avoid detection. Meanwhile, Kanan cuts his hair and shaves his beard using the Force. Zeb jokes about the questionable contraptions. Ezra and Sabine wear stolen TIE pilot uniforms. Zeb and Chopper use a speeder bike to launch them. Zeb tells them to bring Hera back, watching them fly into Lothal's sunset. I'm not the biggest fan of this style of animation, but I have to be honest, that's pretty gorgeous. Back with the Imperials, Tarkin warns Thrawn that the TIE Defender program is at risk. Thrawn leaves to speak to the Emperor, instructing Commander Hammerly to inform Price. The Spectres fly their gliders above the city and land on an Imperial office rooftop. Ezra and Sabine leave to find an escape transport, and Ezra goes to get Hera. In the dome, Hera refuses to reveal the Rebel flight's location. Price uses an ITO interrogator droid on her. Hera sees Kanan through the serum's effects. Price leaves 2 stormtroopers to guard her. Kanan slices the floor under one stormtrooper and hurls the other out the window. He stabs the ITO droid and frees Hera. They hug, and Hera says that she hates his haircut. Kanan says he has a gift for her, and gives Hera her family's Kalikori. Hera appreciates it, but says it technically isn't really a gift, because it already belongs to her. Their reunion is cut short by Price, Rook, and Death Troopers. Kanan and Hera escape. Hera decides to pilot a patrol transport. Rook follows them, and Kanan fights him. Kanan uses the Force to hurl Rook off the building. They escape on a glider, while Rook clings to a balcony. But then, the glider's wing is hit, and Hera steers it to a Lothal city-fueled depot. Governor Price learns of their destination and mobilizes AT-AT walkers. Kanan and Hera survive a crash landing. Kanan requests a pickup at the central fuel pod. Sabine removes her helmet, and Ezra causes the stormtroopers to fall out of their transport. Sabine shoots down another transport, while Ezra redirects a blast, causing a second transport to crash. Kanan and Hera reach the central fuel pod. Hera confesses her love, and they kiss. Sabine and Ezra arrive, but Governor Price arrives with AT-AT walkers and orders them to fire at the central fuel pod. The AT-AT fires, causing a huge explosion. Kanan uses the Force to hold back the explosion, pushes Hera into the transport, and sacrifices himself. Oh no. The surviving Spectres flee, mourning Kanan's sacrifice. What the hell are they gonna do now? Price and stormtroopers watch the Lothal City fuel depot go up in flames. An officer reassures Price that Kanan didn't make it. To distract from the loss, Price decides to hold a parade to celebrate their victory over the rebels. Yeah, celebrate destroying your own fuel supply, you idiot. At dawn, Zeb and Chopper wait at the rebel base as the Spectres return. A heartbroken Sabine throws her TIE pilot helmet. Zeb asks what happened, and Ezra says Kanan is gone. Zeb doesn't understand until Ezra yells it and they share an emotional hug. Chopper holds Hera's hand, beeping sadly. Later, at the Lothal Cliff dwelling, they meet Ryder's crew, listening to Elton Castle's broadcast, claiming that the rebellion is over. Sabine tells them to turn it off. Ryder suggests calling for reinforcements, but Ezra says Yavin won't send more. Ryder asks Hera, but she's too deep in grief to respond. Ezra says she needs time, but Ryder insists they need a plan. Sabine suggests sabotaging the parade, and Zeb is all in. Ezra walks away silently when asked for a plan. While Sabine and Zeb ride off on speeder bikes, Ezra sits on a rock, distraught. A giant white Lothwolf shows up, growling at him. Ezra says he couldn't save Kanan. Two smaller black wolves chase him into the grass, and one knocks him out. The alpha white wolf looms over him as he lies unconscious. At the Imperial complex, Thrawn chews out Price for throwing a parade after losing Hera. Price says it's to celebrate Kanan's death and shows his lightsaber. Thrawn says the parade won't hide the fuel supply loss, and tasks Rook with eliminating the rebels, predicting that they'll struggle without Kanan.
I will deal with you when I return.
Hera studies ancient wall art, crying over not telling Kanan that she loved him sooner. Chopper tries to comfort her, but she lashes out. She blames herself, thinking Kanan was right about the warp being a mistake. Chopper shifts the subject, pointing out her Kalikori. Hera remembers Kanan finding it and agrees no one deserves the honor more, hugging Chopper. Zeb and Sabine take turns with their macro binoculars, watching the parade. Zeb points out the factories aren't belching smoke, indicating their disruption worked. They realize Price is covering up the rebels' victory. Meanwhile, Ezra is alone, calling for the Lothwolves. In Capital City, Zeb knocks out a scout trooper while Sabine hacks into the Imperial network. She learns the TIE Defender factory was heavily damaged in the explosion. Realizing Kanan saved their lives, Sabine vows to get even with the Empire. Ezra, lost and sitting under a mound, repeats a riddle, but eventually falls asleep. Sabine and Zeb spot Rook and recognize him. Zeb vows to avenge Kanan, and they confront Rook. Here we go. Ezra wakes up surrounded by Lothwolves. The Alpha Wolf tells him its name is Doom, Kanan's birth name. On the highway, Rook sniffs out the knocked-out stormtrooper. A stormtrooper discovers the speeder's bike comm rigged to explode. Rook fights Zeb, while Sabine corners Rook, who activates his cloaking device. Ezra admits to the wolf he feels lost without Kanan. Sabine disables Rook's cloaking with a paint bomb, and Zeb pummels Rook, shouting, "This is for Kanan." Sabine stops him from killing Rook. The wolf tells Ezra to fight together and shows him a carved stone from the Lothal Jedi Temple, saying its secrets are in danger. The wolf seemingly eats Ezra, who wakes up with the Jedi keystone at his feet. Zeb and Sabine send Rook back to the Empire, covered in graffiti. Serves the evil piece of garbage right. Hera fits a piece from Kanan's holocron into the Kalikori, honoring him. She tells Chopper that Kanan believed in the rebellion's cause. Sabine and Zeb return, admitting their mission to disrupt the parade failed. But the TIE Defender factory shutdown was a success. Zeb adds that the Empire has no fuel. Hera, encouraged, says they can still beat the Empire. Ezra announces their next mission, saving the Lothal Jedi Temple. A Lothcat climbs onto a Lothwolf's back, spying on the Spectres' meeting. Inside, Ezra briefs the crew about a mysterious stone from the Lothal Jedi Temple. Hera asks how it got there, and Ezra says the Lothwolves gave it to him because the Empire's up to no good. Zeb is skeptical, but Ezra insists that it was their leader Doom who spoke. Sabine suggests checking out the temple. Hera vows to stop the Empire for Kanan. Sabine points out the temple is far to the north, and they don't have a starship. Ezra confidently replies he can get them there. Outside, Ezra uses the Force to summon the Lothwolves. Led by a white wolf, they approach. Ezra mounts the lead wolf, with Hera following. Zeb, skeptical, asks if these things are as fast as speeders. Sabine reassures him they can get to the temple. Zeb tries to befriend his wolf, while Chopper gets carried in another wolf's mouth. They travel north under the night sky. Zeb asks how far the temple is, and Sabine says he probably doesn't want to know. Ezra tells everyone to hold on tight as they zoom through a hypertunnel, hearing eerie voices.
I lost my way for a long time, but now I have a chance to change things.
We have hope.
At dawn, they get off, and Sabine asks Zeb if they heard those voices. Zeb, groggy, can't remember. Ezra says they have to walk the rest of the way. Hera asks how they traveled so fast, and Ezra admits that he doesn't really know. But Kanan said the wolves are deeply connected to the Force, and Zeb is just glad that they're on their side. At dusk, they reach the Lothal Jedi Temple's perimeter, now an Imperial excavation site. Sabine spots miners and said this isn't a military operation. Ezra scouts ahead and finds the temple door is missing. Hera wonders what the Empire wants, and Sabine volunteers to investigate the artwork that they've uncovered. Hera sends Ezra and Sabine to check it out, while the rest keep watch. Zeb notices scout troopers and says they need disguises. Using a hologram of Thrawn, they trick the troopers and knock them out. Ezra and Sabine don their armor and head to the Imperial camp. At the camp, they see miners carting artwork and objects from the temple. Sabine says the art is more pictorial than written. Minister Hayden, a stern figure, tells the troopers not to touch anything, as even a small blemish could erase critical evidence. Ezra blurts out an apology and uses a Jedi mind trick to make the commander forget. Watching from above, Zeb asks Hera who the old man is, and she's equally puzzled. Sabine tells Chopper to reroute an incoming Imperial transmission. They overhear Hayden reporting to the Emperor about discoveries at the temple, linking the symbols to the Mortis gods. The Emperor orders him to unlock the temple's secrets. Sabine, worried, asks what they should do. Hera, spooked by the Emperor's involvement, wants to fall back, but Ezra and Sabine argue they need to intervene now more than ever. Hera, sensing Kanan's presence, reluctantly agrees. The Imperials move a drilling rig into place, and Hayden orders night shifts in silence. Sabine admires a mural of the Mortis gods, noting its intricacy. Ezra spots a convor bird, recalling it always accompanying Ahsoka. The hands on the figures in the mural match those on the stone Ezra received, revealing a star map. Sabine realizes the painting is a map and the need to align the figures to open the temple. Ezra climbs a rock to touch the daughter's hand, while Sabine distracts a stormtrooper. Ezra, recalling Kanan's advice, listens to the stone. As he touches the daughter's hand, the painting lights up, and the figures shift. The Lothwolf paintings come to life, leading Ezra into the mural. Meanwhile, Sabine is taken by stormtroopers for processing. Hayden inspects Sabine, discovering her disguise, and locks down the site. Hera, Zeb, and Chopper retreat, as Ezra follows the Lothwolves inside. Realizing the circle is the gateway, he removes his helmet. Hayden, arriving with Sabine, sees Ezra has found the gateway. Sabine urges Ezra to go in, and he leaps into the portal just as stormtroopers close in. The portal seals, leaving Sabine stunned that Ezra is trapped inside. Oh no. The episode kicks off with Ezra entering the portal of the Force Wielders, hearing the voices of Yoda, Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon, Ahsoka, and his late master Kanan. It's like the Jedi Hall of Fame in here. He steps into the world between worlds, a trippy place connecting all of space and time, like the galaxy's weirdest party. Back at the Imperial Command Center, Minister Hayden questions Sabine. He recognizes her and mentions Thrawn's collection of her work. Sabine, ever the sass master, mockingly says that she's flattered. Hayden asks how they open the portal, and she quips, "Because I'm smarter than you." Hayden laughs, but then gets serious, saying Palpatine knows Ezra is in the portal, and it's tough for Ezra without Kanan. Sabine calls Hayden a pawn, and he admits it, but says his power reflects the Emperor's might. She taunts him about the Emperor's failures, and Hayden smugly says it's only a matter of time before the Emperor finds Ezra. Realizing the portal is a time pathway, Hayden claims controlling it means controlling the universe. Outside, Hera, Chopper, and Zeb watch the Imperial excavation. Hera spots Sabine being taken into a building and worries. Zeb asks if anybody knows where Ezra is, but nobody does. And Ezra probably doesn't either. Walking through the world between worlds, Ezra hears voices from the past, present, and future, like he's at a super weird reunion. He calls out to Yoda and Obi-Wan and spots a convor bird leading him to Ahsoka fighting Vader on Malachor. As Ahsoka creates a hole in the floor, Ezra pulls her to safety through the doorway. Back in the command center, Hayden chats with Sabine about Jedi Temple paintings. Sabine pretends not to care, but Hayden sees through her. He asks about the Mortis God's depiction on the Lothal Temple. Sabine plays dumb, but Hayden warns her not to mistake his pleasant demeanor for weakness. Under pressure, Sabine tells him the hands are a language, asserting that she's smarter than him. Hayden, annoyed, has a Death Trooper strike her with a blaster rifle. In the world between worlds, the convoy hoots as Ezra and Ahsoka wake up. Ahsoka is surprised and grateful to Ezra for saving her. She asks about Kanan, and Ezra explains that she missed a lot. Meanwhile, Hera, Zeb, and Chopper infiltrate the Imperial camp. Ahsoka explains the world between worlds is like a dream Ezra had after Kanan died, and Kanan's will was transferred into the Loth wolf called Doom. She emphasizes that Kanan is part of the cosmic force. Ezra thinks he was sent here to stop the Empire, but found Ahsoka instead. He believes he can also save Kanan, but Ahsoka tries to stop him. Determined, Ezra heads for a portal. Not a good idea, my dude. Ezra sees Kanan holding back an explosion to save the others. Ahsoka stops him from intervening, reminding him that Kanan's sacrifice ensured their survival. She tells Ezra that neither she nor he could save their masters, and to honor Kanan's sacrifice. Ezra reluctantly agrees, and watches Kanan's final moments, realizing it was his last lesson. He wishes things were different, and that his parents were still around. Suddenly, the Emperor appears, having found a way to reach the world between worlds through Sith sorcery. He taunts that Ezra and Ahsoka are his. Back at the Imperial camp, Hera activates thrusters beneath Hayden's command center. Zeb tells her to hurry. Hayden, inside, observes the portal's activation. Sabine realizes that focusing on the sun will close the portal. Hayden is pleased with her knowledge, but chaos ensues as the command center tilts. Palpatine sends blue flames after Ezra and Ahsoka. Ahsoka resists with the Force, and Ezra helps, dissipating the flames. They run, as another wave of flames chases them. In the command center, Sabine, Hayden, and the troopers dodge falling objects. Zeb punches a stormtrooper, and the Spectres flee before the command center collapses. Sabine asks about Ezra, and Hera says he's on the way as they head to the portal. Ezra and Ahsoka race against Palpatine's flames. Ahsoka fights off the flames with her lightsaber, telling Ezra to flee. Ezra asks her to find him when she returns. Ahsoka agrees, escaping through her portal back to Malachor, wishing Ezra well. Ezra narrowly escapes the Emperor's clutches and returns to Lothal, where the rebels are fleeing stormtroopers. Sabine helps him up, but he insists on sealing the portal first. The rebels fend off Imperials, and Chopper arrives with a driller, forcing the stormtroopers to retreat. Under Sabine's guidance, Ezra activates the sun. The temple begins to collapse, and he passes out. Hayden realizes too late that everything will be lost, as Zeb carries Ezra onto the drill, and they make a run for it. Aboard the hijacked drill, Ezra hears Kanan's words, "The Force will be with you always." Zeb jokes about not wanting to trade places with Ezra on Jedi missions. Sabine tells Ezra that Hera wants to show him something outside. Ezra sees the temple has sunk into the ground, and realizes Kanan is really gone, believes him with one final lesson. Before leaving, Ezra bids goodbye to the White Loth Wolf, saying, "Goodbye, Kanan," before returning to the driller. That is some heavy stuff for a kid's cartoon. Wow. The episode kicks off with the Ghost heading to Selos. They're directed to coordinate G782 and land on top of their modified AT-AT Walker, which now has a landing platform. Hera walks in with Rex and Kallus, and Wolf mentions they expected them on their last rotation. Hera apologizes for the delay due to the Imperial blockade. Hondo chimes in that he would have handled it easily, but I doubt that. Hera and the gang spot him and Melch lounging at a nearby table. Hondo, always dramatic, climbs over the table to offer his services. Katsu comments on how easy he was to find and how much he talks for a smuggler. Hondo, with flair, corrects her, saying that he's a pirate. He's right. There is a difference. It's much more romantic. Kallus cuts to the chase, saying it's time to discuss the mission. Hondo assumes it's another smuggling run and starts negotiating profit shares, asking who they're liberating. Wolf mentions they didn't get a briefing from Rebel Command. Rex clarifies this mission isn't for the rebellion. It's for Ezra, and involves liberating his homeworld, Lothal. Wolf thinks their odds are slim against a planet full of Imperials. Hondo agrees, but says the boy has spirit, and represents a time worth believing in. Katsu points out Ezra is a Jedi. Wolf recalls following Jedi into battle, and Gregor is game, and give it another go. When Hera asks if they're in, Hondo removes his hat and dramatically declares that he'd do anything for the boy. Outside the Lothal Resistance base, Sabine finds Ezra meditating. He tells her something has changed and needs to talk to Hera. Visago informs Ezra that Hera is on the hologram, and they head to the command center. Ezra, joined by the rebels, announces they need to act now to take Capital City from the Empire. Zeb thinks Ezra's plan is crazy and questions the urgency. Ezra insists that the Emperor is bringing Thrawn back to Lothal, making it now or never. Ryder doubts they stand a chance against Thrawn after the last failed attack, suggesting they should lay low, reorganize, and rebuild their forces. Ezra urges Ryder to trust him, countering they don't need an army, just one person. At the Imperial Dome, an officer informs Governor Price they found no sign of the rebels. Price, frustrated, worries Thrawn will execute her if she fails to find them. She threatens to execute the officer if he fails. Another officer bursts in, reporting an incoming transmission on an old pre-Imperial frequency. The transmission is from Ryder, who offers to betray the other rebels in exchange for amnesty. Price, skeptical, asks if he's offering his head on a platter. Ryder says that he doesn't want to return to an Imperial prison. Price agrees to his offer if he delivers Ezra, Hera, and the other rebels, calling it cowardly. Ryder sends his coordinates, and Price smirks.
You're betraying them. Why?
They can't win, and I don't want to end up back in an Imperial prison.
Back at the rebel camp, Sabine asks Ezra about his connection to the Lothwolves. He admits he can't explain it, but says sometimes the connection is strong, while other times he's on his own. Sabine hopes his plan works, and he can use the Force. Suddenly, the wolves run away. The camp senses movement, and Ezra warns Zeb they're coming just as 6 Imperial patrol transports approach. The gunship starts strafing the camp and deploy jump troopers. Sabine vows to handle the flyers while the rebels exchange fire with the gunships. Price orders her men to take the Jedi boy alive to avoid disappointing the Emperor. Jai shoots at the gunships, and Sabine takes out a patrol transport with a jet rocket, causing it to crash. Ezra tells Chopper to warn Hera that they're under attack, and then deflects Rook's electrostaff bolts with his lightsaber, cutting down 2 stormtroopers. Rook ambushes Ezra from above, leading to a duel. Chopper, chased by a stormtrooper, jumps down a ledge and uses his mechanical arm to drag the trooper down. Hera and Kallus, traveling through hyperspace, receive Ezra's transmission. As they exit hyperspace above Lothal, Hera tells them to power down. As the Ghost approaches Thrawn's 7th Fleet, Kallus thinks that they weren't detected. Hera tells Hondo it's time to join the rebellion. Hondo instructs her to head towards a hyperspace lane, explaining they'll latch on to an arriving cargo ship. Kallus thinks Hondo is crazy, but Hondo, ever the risk-taker, reassures them he's done it before. Though he's vague about his failures. Back on Lothal, Sabine takes out another jump trooper, then flies through 2 patrol transports, shooting at the stormtrooper gunners. Ezra fights Rook, whose reflexes match Ezra's force powers. Rook falls over a roof, but clings to the rock face and scurries up the cliff. The other rebels take a defensive position on the ore crawler. Price orders her troops to storm in. Zeb, grabbing a mortar, charges a landing gunship and takes out a bunch of stormtroopers, causing the gunship to fall off the crawler. 2 more gunships land and outflank the rebels. Zeb's mortar runs out of juice, so he hurls it at the stormtroopers. Ezra joins the fight, wondering where Hera is. In space, Rex warns Hera they can't wait much longer, but Hondo reassures them the Empire runs shipments to Lothal all the time. An Imperial cargo ship exits hyperspace, and they latch onto it. The Ghost rides the freighter through the blockade. When cleared for passage, Hondo celebrates. Hera tells the crew they'll signal Ezra once in orbit. On Lothal, Sabine leads troopers on a chase and causes them to crash into a ledge. The rebels find themselves surrounded and begin to suffer casualties. Zeb cries out, "There are too many Imperials." Rook roams the camp, and Ryder carefully avoids shooting him to maintain the ruse. As the Imperials encircle them, Visago regrets meeting Ezra, who says the day isn't over yet. Price orders her gunship to target the ore crawler, destroying it. The rebels and Imperials abandon the freighter. Mart leaps to safety, while stormtroopers fall into the wreckage. Ezra tells Sabine to take Visago, and he and Zeb jump onto a platform, discovering the stormtroopers have captured the others. Rook orders them to drop their weapons, and informs Price the base is secured. Price greets Ezra, Sabine, and Zeb and Ryder, thanking Ryder for bringing peace to Lothal. Sabine pretends to be angry at Ryder, who remarks they couldn't win without an army. Price praises Ryder, but Ezra reveals it was all a ruse, noting Thrawn wouldn't have fallen for it. Price says they both gambled, but she won. Ezra's wrist comm buzzes, and Ryder reveals it was a trap for Price. She remains unperturbed, thinking the rebellion is over. Just then, the Ghost descends, destroying Price's gunship. Ezra tells the rebels to get down as Hera strafes the stormtroopers. Hondo and Ketsu man the turrets, while Melt shoots down another transport. Sabine tells Chopper to jam the Imperial transmissions. The remaining gunships chase the Ghost. Visago points out they're still outnumbered, but Ezra tells them to fall back to the cave. Price orders Rook to bring her Ezra and eliminate the others. Rook chases the stormtroopers into the cave, finding Ezra shrouded in darkness. Ezra ignites his lightsaber as 3 Loth wolves emerge. Rook tries to retreat, but the wolves attack. The white Loth wolf grabs Rook and drags him outside. Rook fights back, but the wolf flings him off a cliff. The wolves drive away the stormtroopers. The rebels emerge, seeing the wolves and the ghost pursuing the gunships. Melch shoots down one, and Hondo admits his friend is a better gunner when directed by him. Hera rams the ghost into the remaining gunship, causing it to crash. The Loth wolves tear through the stormtroopers. Gregor jokes that Wolf has his wolf pack back, and Wolf remarks that they fight like his old squad. The remaining stormtroopers surrender, and Zeb orders them to drop their weapons. The white Loth wolf carries a frightened Price in its jaws, dropping her in front of Ryder, Rex, and Kallus. Ezra gives Ryder the honor of cuffing Price, who bows her head in defeat. After the battle, Ezra meets up with Hera, Hondo, Melch, and Ketsu. Hera praises Ezra for his victory despite the odds. He says he couldn't have done it without her help, and the Lothal resistance. Hondo asks if he can take his leave, but Ezra insists their struggle isn't over until they drive the Empire from Lothal and show the galaxy they can be defeated. The last episode opens at the Rebel base on Lothal. Ezra, staring at a picture of his late parents, admits he's scared, but knows what he has to do. Hera tells him they're bringing up Governor Price. Kallus and Ryder bring Price in. When Price calls Kallus a traitor, he retorts that he finally stopped betraying himself. Ezra asks Price for help, but she refuses. He whistles for the White Loth Wolf, which growls at her. Intimidated, Price agrees to send the Victory Code to Imperial allies and fly to Capital City with the rebels as her prisoners. The rebels fly to Capital City. Gregor is skeptical, but Rex vouches for Ezra's plan. Ezra and Sabine are disguised as scout troopers. When Ezra looks down, Sabine asks what's wrong, and he says he can always count on her. They approach Platform Zero Delta. Price mocks their plan, but Ezra says it's bold. Kallus demands the landing codes from Price. As the gunships approach, Price issues Executive Code 627311. An Imperial Navy trooper clears her for landing. Ezra and Sabine, disguised, lead the prisoners out, with Kallus as an Imperial officer. Zeb breaks free, charges the blast door, and Ezra attacks stormtroopers with his lightsaber. The rebels storm the base, with Zeb holding the door open for Sabine and Ketsu. Ketsu works on unlocking the door, while Sabine and Zeb exchange fire with stormtroopers. Outside, Ezra, Kallus, and Melch exchange fire with stormtroopers. Hera and Chopper descend from the gunship, shooting stormtroopers. Hera tells the team to move, and Ketsu unlocks the door and jams the comm system. Inside the base, Hondo issues orders to Melch. Sabine, Ketsu, Hera, and Ezra reach a door Ketsu tries to unlock. An Imperial officer learns their comlinks are jammed. Hondo informs Ezra they're in position. Melch runs, and Zeb throws him onto the command center window. The officers are distracted, and the Spectres storm the command center, forcing the Imperials to surrender.
No!
Melch slips off the window. Ezra orders Rex to lock the prisoners in the storage bay. Price warns that they're going to be discovered, but Sabine says defeat is not part of their plan. Kallus explains they'll lure Imperial officers on Lothal back to the dome using Protocol 13. Ryder's plan is to launch the dome, ending Imperial rule on Lothal. Wolf and Visago are attacked by Rook, who flies away with their transport. Rook contacts Thrawn, informing him the rebels have captured Price and infiltrated Imperial headquarters. Thrawn tells Rook to deactivate the shield generator and heads to Lothal. Ezra tells Kallus they're ready. Kallus issues Protocol 13, summoning Imperial forces to the dome. Rook arrives as the blast doors seal. Kallus gives orders to secure the dome. Hera sets the launch cycle, and Sabine prepares the self-destruct mechanism. Thrawn's Star Destroyer arrives above the dome, and Hera aborts the launch cycle to avoid crashing into the Chimera. Ezra contacts Thrawn via hologram, demanding he leave Lothal in exchange for the dome's control. Thrawn says Ezra must surrender unconditionally. Thrawn orders bombardment of Capital City, killing civilians. Ezra offers to surrender to stop the bombardment. After the transmission, Ezra decides to surrender. Hera tries to reason with him, but he insists. Chopper opens the ceiling hatchway for Ezra. Sabine distracts the rebels, while Ezra sneaks out to the landing bay and boards a transport. Hera decides to stall Thrawn and calls for Ezra, but hears the transport taking off. Sabine pleads for them to trust him and suggests splitting into teams to capture the power terminals. Hera approves. As the rebels prepare, Price taunts them. Ezra arrives on the Chimera and is taken to Thrawn's quarters. Thrawn compliments Ezra for surrendering, saying it was predictable. Ezra reminds Thrawn the Jedi survived, but Thrawn points out their decline. Thrawn, intrigued by the Force, says the Jedi lack vision. Ezra responds that the Force isn't a weapon. Thrawn says it wasn't his intention to destroy Lothal, but now it's inevitable. Thrawn shows Ezra his art collection, including Sabine's graffiti. Ezra angrily responds that Thrawn has no right to take her art, or Lothal. Thrawn calmly says only power matters. Thrawn leads Ezra to a special chamber with a holographic projection of Emperor Palpatine. At the Rebel base, the White Loth Wolf wakes Mart. Wolf tells Visago to get up, recalling Thrawn's attack. Mart explains Ezra's plan is to transmit on Frequency 0. Wolf asks who they're contacting, and Mart tells him to be ready for a surprise. Stormtroopers prepare to dismantle the door. Melch leads a chase. Zeb unlocks the blast door. Zeb and Hondo joke around while Melch exchanges fire. Hera reminds them about setting up the deflector shield. Sabine splits the teams. Rex, Hondo, and Ketsu take the North Tower, while Zeb, Kallus, and Gregor take the South. Hera hopes Ezra knows what he's doing. Aboard the Chimera, Palpatine tempts Ezra with the gateway, offering him a chance to rejoin his parents. Ezra considers, but realizes it's a lie. He tears down the temple section with the Force, revealing Palpatine's true form. Ezra tells the Emperor he has a new family. Palpatine orders royal guards to destroy him. Ezra hurls rubble at stormtroopers with the Force. Ketsu finds the manual overdrive extending the bridges. Melch arrives, chased by stormtroopers, but Rex shoots the trooper. Melch is hit, and Hondo shoots the remaining stormtroopers. Zeb fights Rook in the power conduits, pinning Rook's leg and electrocuting him. Ketsu turns on the shields, and Rook is electrocuted to death. Gregor is shot and dies, telling Kallus it was an honor to fight with him. Ezra forces his way onto the Chimera's bridge and faces Thrawn. The Ghost charges with a pod of Purrgil at the Chimera. The Purrgil destroy Star Destroyers and TIE fighters. Ezra tells Thrawn that he's lost, and the Purrgil grab the Chimera, glowing with blue light. Hera orders Ezra to leave, but he says he needs to see it through. The Purrgil disappear with the Chimera into hyperspace. Wolf breaks the silence, realizing no Imperial ships are left in Lothal space. Sabine orders Chopper to prime the dome thrusters for launch. Chopper gets to work, and the Imperial complex launches. Price defiantly responds she serves the Empire to the end. The Rebels and Stormtroopers engage in a gun battle. Sabine cuts through the viewport, and the Rebels escape to the Ghost. Sabine detonates the dome's thrusters, and it explodes in Lothal's atmosphere. Price is consumed by the blast. On the Ghost, Hera tells Rex to bring out every star chart. Ezra's pre-recorded hologram explains he had to do this because Kanan taught him. He tells Sabine not to forget he's counting on her. Ezra says they were the best family he could wish for, and looks forward to coming home one day. Rex warns the Empire won't let them keep the planet, and they need to prepare to fight back. Kallus hopes the Rebel Alliance will send support. The Ghost flies over the streets, while citizens take Imperial stormtroopers and officers into custody. Kallus says the people are with Hera, who replies that if the Empire wants to fight, they'll get one. Years later, Sabine reflects on the new capital city. The Empire's anticipated attack never came, and the Emperor's reign ended after the Battle of Endor. Zeb took Kallus to Lirasan, where Kallus was accepted by the Lasat. Hera and Rex fought in the Battle of Endor, joined by Hera's son, Jason.
And with a decisive victory at the Battle of Endor, the Emperor's reign of terror came to an end.
Sabine realizes there's more to do, and with a white-robed Ahsoka, sets out to find Ezra and bring him home. And that was the entire story of Star Wars Rebels. And it was an emotional roller coaster, seriously. I know a lot of the classic living fans giving the show a lot of hate just because it isn't the Clone Wars. But I loved it. But what do you think about the show? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to drop a like if you enjoyed the video, and subscribe for more recaps of your favorite shows. Till next time, may the Force be with you.